The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the final round of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series here from the Hockenheimring. No longer do we go out into the forest and race around those long straights in towards those tight chicanes. Instead, a more modern Grand Prix circuit plays host to our final round here of 9 in the first season of 2025, and indeed the final PRL GT3 races here tonight. It is 2 championships to settle. Myself, Ian Delirian Darathacker, will be taking you through every moment of it here tonight on RaceSpotTV with Miro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras. It is, I think, definitely a race in a championship, Darren, in which we have favourites, and those at the front of the championship certainly are the favourites, but anything can happen around this circuit on the final day.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the drivers come into this race with a little bit of ambition and a little bit of drive as well, because there's been a couple of decent results from drivers that haven't necessarily been right at the front of the field in the last couple of weeks, and I think some of the championship leaders and contenders really have to look behind them to make sure they get themselves over the line tonight.
Is the season that we've been through for the last 9 weeks, from the very start of January all the way to this point at the end of another iRacing season in the sim. We end here at the Hockenheimring. In the drivers' standings, the pro standings, currently with Brett Thurman at the front. He is 23 points ahead of Ricardo Delgado, despite his calamity at Bathurst 1 week ago. David Bush is into third ahead of Sully Sad, and Jason Park down to 5th, dropping 3 places after also having a problem at Bathurst 1 week ago. Jay Steffi is just a few points outside that top 5, with Jared King, Andrew Trickett, Charlie Graff and Dale Pedersen rounding out the top 10 in the pro standings. The AM standings are even more in favour of Colin McKenzie, who can mathematically lose the title here, but Pete Meslier would at the very least need a top 5 overall, and that just seemed unlikely. Nick Bruno is mathematically out of it, although he will need to try and stay ahead of Luke Davis in any way possible for third in the championship. Ringen Chandler is in 5th, but not that far ahead of Ian Southern or Aaron Sunday. Thomas Rep, Neil Alexander and Buck Hamilton round out the AM standings. And then in the teams, what an exciting fight we've got here. SRT Orange, 9 points ahead of Lunatic Racing going into the final round, with Riot Motorsports only 69 points back. Then it's SGE Esports in 4th ahead of B&O Kartmania, with Sim Racing PR 6th place. Tachyon, SimSport, VHR Racing, Crikey Esports and Parabola Cobalt round out the top 10 in the teams standings. I reckon the Fixed Series team standings, to go along with the AM Series and the Sprint Series, as we're going to see a little bit later on, are going to be the most interesting ones tonight. Just look at that, 9 points separating after 8 rounds, SRT Orange and Lunatic Racing. Just to remind you who's on these two teams, SRT Orange with Brett Furman and Jared Keane at the top of the championship. They're 1st and 7th overall in the championship. David Bush the 3rd and Colin McKenzie are the Lunatic Racing drivers. They are 3rd and 8th overall in the drivers' standings. It's going to take a bit of maths for us to work it out, but it is going to be the most exciting. I think it's the smallest margin we've got here in the Fixed Series of any of the standings.
I definitely think so. It's definitely a challenge, I think, for some of the teams to really position themselves well at the start of this race. I think for Thurman and Keane, of course, they looked like they had things wrapped up midway through the race at Bathurst 7 days ago, but didn't really materialise that way. Little moments, they went from 1st and 2nd to something like 3rd and right towards the back of the field, whereas Bush and McKenzie were able to pick up those pieces. They've got to be wary. You can't really allow those mistakes to creep in like they did last week, but I feel like they've made that mistake once. They'd probably not make that mistake again, but it has happened once, so it absolutely could happen again.
We will see what goes on indeed tonight. We haven't had any rain this season, and that's going to remain tonight, by the way. There is a chance of rain later in the Sprint Series, but the Fixed Series hasn't seen any, and we're not going to. There are the conditions just past midday on the 1st of April. It's very foggy, mostly cloudy. I would say it's even more than mostly cloudy, and it's pretty foggy out there at the moment as well. The current best time, by the way, has been set by Tyler Graff in this qualifying session. He's half a tenth ahead of Ricardo Delgado, less than 2 tenths ahead of Jay Steffi, and then Brett Furman is in 4th place. Jared Keane is currently 8th. David Bush is 5th. Colin McKenzie's 9th. So all of those contenders for the Teams Championship and for the Sprint Series Pro Drivers Championship, they're all there, all where they need to be, up inside the top 10 at the moment, and only separated by 3.5 tenths as well. One of the closer sessions we've seen of the season.
It's really good to see that we have so many drivers so close together right towards the end of the season. Shows that everybody is on it right there, and still in their own personal fights in the championship. No one's season is over in a stretch of the imagination. Even if you have a couple of margins in front of you, you want to defend your position from drivers behind. So I think there's a lot of drivers with some ambition tonight to either work their way forwards in the championship or hold on to what they have. This being likely the last evening of GT3 Racing and PRL for quite some time, I think will also hold a little bit of prestige behind it, and I think drivers will almost drive accordingly for the moment.
There's a bit of traffic into the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit. Pretty busy out there at the moment. Ricardo Delgado's had to fight alone throughout much of this season. He's on the Sim Racing PR team. Louis Ortiz is his teammate. He hasn't been here, unfortunately, since round number 6 at Road Atlanta, and unfortunately has not appeared since and wasn't scoring many points before then either. So the team's championship charge for them has not been one that has been to write home about particularly. But Delgado's had a good season. He's led the championship for quite a long way, and he's one of those contenders tonight who needs a bit of a miracle, but he can still take it away from Brett Furman. The drop week not able to be taken, as we'll reiterate over the course of tonight. It is set in stone what the drop points are going to be. You've got to take this final round in its entirety. Over the line for Jay Steffi, he goes fastest to the top of the session. Jason Park also moves up to 3rd place. That pushes Furman down to 5th, by the way, and Tyler Graff down to 2nd place. So a couple of movers in there, but Jay Steffi with a new best time, and get the feeling there is still time in this circuit with still 5.5 minutes to go, and there it is. Brett Furman goes up to 2nd place.
Yeah, I'm wondering to see where when the final push in terms of times are going to come, because you feel like everyone's going to improve at least once or twice. Why goes David Bush through? Will they allow Jared Keane in that SRT orange car, maybe hoping to join his teammate up towards the top 3 in qualifying? Of course, they had such good qualifying last week and started the race well, but I touched upon it just a moment ago, and you did as well. Difficulties that they had in the race meant that they dropped back in the field, and as teammates, I think they probably went away and talked about what happened and tried to figure out a way of not allowing that to happen again this week. But part of that discussion, I'm sure, would have been getting themselves back towards the front of the field, and Jared Keane has a little bit of work to do defined himself there, using all of the track and a little bit more as he makes his way into the stadium section. But he only needs a couple of tenths to find himself up, 3 or 4 spots here.
He used a lot of the Mobil 1 curve there. I'm not the inside curve of the curve, if you catch what I mean. To be surprised if he didn't get an off track, to be honest, but he's pushing on, so he must have not got one. Over the line for Keane. Is this any better? Not really. It's the 38.9. Still going to see him in 8th place. He is ahead of Colin McKenzie, which is a positive for Keane, I suppose. And there is McKenzie coming into pit lane. Delgado goes up to 2nd place in a good lap from him. So a change again for the Corvette. And he moves up to second place. Look at the times at the moment, by the way. Top 5 covered by 3/4 of a tenth. And then you've got nearly 3 tenths further back to David Bush the third. But the top 5 at the moment are ridiculously close.
Kind of blink of an eye style gaps at the moment between all of them. Really is crazy. I mean, the steps down are so minimum. You can see there everybody in that top 5 on a 138.4, just to show how close they are. And I'm sure they will have been practicing over the course of the week, trying to judge where some of the others are. And it turns out that they're pretty much all at the same pace. It's about who's going to get that, if anything, tighter run through the parabolica up towards the hairpin that could genuinely make that much of a difference. I mean, if you're drifting a little bit wider and driving an extra few meters, that's where you could lose 31 thousandths or even 75 thousandths. So this is really coming down to the barest of margins. And in a championship that has gone one way and another, to see it come down to this in qualifying in the final race just shows how competitive that it's been and how hard fought some of these race wins have had to be for a lot of the drivers.
Can Tartagraph get any faster this time round? No, he's not going to go any quicker, and he will stay 4th for the moment in the Porsche. A couple of other drivers coming up towards the line. Jay Steffi's just gone over the line there in the bottom of your screen. Jason Park's just behind him. He doesn't go any quicker either. Steffi didn't go any quicker. Actually, his lap didn't count. Jason Park went 3 tenths slower. So he stays where he is. Brett Furman is in the final sector at the moment as well from 3rd place. Can he find any time? It doesn't look like he was taking a great line there through the sack curve, to be honest, through turn 12. So I'll be surprised if this is an improvement, but he might well prove me wrong. Through the final couple of corners, just trying to turn those double left-handers into, or right-handers rather, into one. He goes over the line and he is 8 tenths away. So we have hit a bit of a wall here, or are we seeing everybody gearing up for a final lap here in the last 2 minutes?
I think, I'd suggest that maybe it's more of a wall rather than drivers gearing up here, but there's definitely a chance for a couple of drivers to improve here. I think we've seen towards the back end of sessions, drivers have dropped off a little bit in terms of the pace. They haven't necessarily been able to find the lap time that they found at the start of the session, although Solly Sad may be able to pop in a good time. That's going to be just slower than his previous best, about a tenth slower than his previous best. You can see it there. But we haven't seen many late improvements in sessions over the course of the season. I can't imagine that's going to change now, but I wouldn't mind if a few more drivers get themselves into that group of 5 at the front.
Just over a minute to go. Delgado's just made his way out the pit lane to start, start an out lap, so he will look to get to the line in time. David Bush III is one of those drivers who does need a bit of improvement here, and this first sector was pretty good. 11.5, which is one of the quicker ones that we've seen in recent times. Now, whether he's going to be able to break into that top 5 that we've been discussing here being so close together, I'm not sure, but there's his predicted time. Not really sure how that's calculated, to be honest with you, but I'll just believe some technology for a moment. At 39.1, that would put him a long way slower than what he is currently doing. Well, there you go, he's getting a lot quicker. How does it work this out? I've got no idea. It's suddenly into the 38s, and maybe he will be able to break into that top 5. Maybe he'll at least get 6th place, because he only needs about 300ths of a second to overtake Jared Keane, and that will be quite important for the team's championship over the line. And it is a very good lap. It's at least going to be 6th, and that is all it is. But that's a big improvement for Bush. He gets himself ahead of Jared Keane, more importantly, in the team's championship battle.
Yeah, and Jared, can he respond towards the end of the session on his final lap? Timer has hit 0. This is his final opportunity to get himself any further up the order. 3 tenths or so would get him to 3rd. 3.5 tenths would get him to pole. Just shows how close it is right at the sharp end of the field, using all of that circuit, nearly running into the gravel on the outside of the mobile curve, but he'll run his way through the final couple of corners now. It all comes down to this. This is his final act in qualifying this season, and as it's been a consistent season for him in that regard, can he just about get that result at the end that he's looking for?
Through the final corner for Jared Keane. Can he undo the damage, minor damage inflicted by Bush there in the last lap? No. Over the line, and that's it for Jared Keane. He is not going to go any quicker this time round. Who else is going quickly? Jason Park's first sector was very good there. I'm not sure he's going to be completing that lap, though, or this is going to work out. Colin McKenzie as well is out there on the circuit. David Bush still going. Haven't got sector times from him for whatever reason. But we'll just have to watch his lap at the end and see if it's anywhere near where he needs to be. So Bush and McKenzie are still out there for Lunatic Racing, which is good news for them. They do need to get up the field between the two of them, because Steph Gauthier at the moment has taken the pole position in the AMS. Can McKenzie take that away? At the end he can, just in front of Bush. Colin McKenzie goes over the line, gets back to 8th place and gets back on the AM pole. Does Bush go any further up through the field after crossing the line there? The answer to that is no. He did a 38.7, well, basically a 38.8, we'll call it, because 38.799. So it's Jake Steffi who is going to take the pole position, and it's 5 drivers covered by 3/4 of a tenth of a second here at the Hockenheimring at the end of that session. Interesting session, but I think the winners, as far as the team's championship goes, certainly SRT Orange, 3rd and 7th, plays 6th and 8th in that session.
Yeah, and I think definitely chances for Bush and McKenzie to work their way through the order, but you always want to have that good foundation to work off of. And Brett Thurman in 3rd, I think he'd support, or back himself at least, to stay where he is, be rooted to the spot, but maybe work his way to the top 2 as well.
Let's have a look at the starting grid for this race here at the Hockenheimring, the final round of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series in Season 1 of 2025. It's Jay Steffi who's taken pole in the Acura, ahead of Ricardo alongside Brett Furman in the first of the SLT Orange Porsches, 3rd ahead of Tyler Graf in an all-Porsche row 2. Jason Park and David Bush the 3rd share row 3. Jared Keane is 7th with the Ampole sitter Colin McKenzie alongside. That one's important for the team's championship as well. Seb Gauthier and Sully Sad round out the top 10. Sad is one of those drivers who could snatch the Pro Drivers' Championship tonight, by the way. Nikos Sanadakis and Nick Bruno are next, ahead of Dave Peterson and Andrew Vanaro on row 7. Ian Southern and David Morse are on row 8, ahead of Pete Mercier and Luke Davis on all McLaren row 9. Neil Alexander and Dave Jensen are on row 10, and indeed rounding out the top 20, Regan Chandler and Robert Jeffries are next, ahead of Kevin Bergqvist and Jakob Fichtner, who's the first of the drivers, I should say, to be over a second off of pole. Aaron Sunday and Christopher Rhines are on an all Porsche row 13, ahead of Ryan Chandler and Ian Cabana. Mark Prey and Drew Duessy round out the field, at least of those who have set times. Not sure there are any further below, actually. There is. Excuse me. Thomas Rep is 31st and last in the starting grid. There's the grid order, and as I say, SRT Orange certainly on top. Before we get to the race, let's of course thank the sponsors who make these broadcasts possible here each and every night on RaceSpotTV, starting with Logitech G. Logitech G wheels and pedals are equipped with true force feedback to help you feel the road and own the race. You use code PRECISION at checkout on logitechg.com for 5 to 10% off of your purchase. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on airsoft products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision 5 coupon code. Book Gear products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. And indeed, for the final time in PRL GT3 Series racing, a big thanks to all of those sponsors for making these broadcasts possible each and every night throughout this season. On board then with Chase Steffi, who is going to show us his pole lap now, and not with a particularly ideal start to it either. Right in behind one of the Corvettes that immediately gets out the way by hitting a curb. But after seeing that turn one, it's almost unbelievable that this ended up being the fastest lap of the session.
You could almost imagine that there's almost all 5 of the drivers still to the front of the grid that had a couple of moments on their laps. They didn't absolutely nail it. It's almost impossible. You see that many drivers so close on pure out and out pace with Chase Steffi. You can see here, shortening that run around the parabolica, just making sure that those extra hundredths, those extra thousandths of a second are shaved off of the lap time coming in towards the hairpin. Very difficult to really judge your braking point here. Such a heavy braking zone into the slowest corner, well, from the fastest point on the racetrack to the slowest point on the racetrack. And then as you come out of it, you're really thinking about the difficult chicane, but this sequence of corners ahead of you. Cars getting out of the way aren't going to be particularly helpful for your line of sight, but it's always good when you're able to hit an apex as you go past that Mercedes-Benz grandstand.
And now in towards the final sector of the lap. This is where things get particularly tricky. I think this is where we're going to see quite a lot of the racing actually throughout the course of the day, but let's see on that front. May well prove not to be quite correct. This is the very interesting Banks turn 12, and there's another bit of a mistake really. A slide on his way through, and on the exit there as well. Just gathering it back up again before the final 2 corners. Want to just make this into one smooth movement. He didn't quite do it there, but good enough. Keeps it in 3rd gear at least and powers his way up towards the line. 1 minute 38.4 is the benchmark. And watch on that later on, by the way, for the Sprint Series, and whether we're going to be seeing any times faster than that. You'd imagine we will do, because of course you can change your setup during the Sprint Series and not in the Fixed Series here tonight. Just a few seconds left to warm up before the race really begins, and a huge moment for Brett Furman really. He is 23 points ahead in the Drivers' Championship with a possible 9 drivers close enough to him to take the overall title, and 8 pro drivers who are in contention for the Pro Championship, including himself. And with the drop week not able to be taken tonight, he's got to be on his game right from the very beginning of this race.
Does, and I think after the scare of last week that lost him a whole heap of points, it will mean that he's aware. He is very much wary of the situation that he finds himself in, but at the same time, definitely a good spot to be. You'd rather be leading the championship by 23 points than having to chase down that margin. And by starting up in the top 3, it's really his to lose now. The only person who can really, take the championship away from him is someone who benefits from his mistakes, because he's going to have to go a lot further down the order for anybody to be able to gain enough points for him to lose it from him. And he'll know that. I'm not too sure how comforting that thought will be, but he'd be consistent this season. He knows what he needs to do. I'm sure he'd be more than capable enough of bringing it home. It's just a case of then going out and doing it, which is a little bit more difficult.
A good evening, by the way, to Dave Morse in YouTube chat, who's reminding us, of course, that there are 3 drivers for SRT Orange. He is the 3rd of them. Apologies for not mentioning you so far, David, but the other 2 up ahead are the ones that are going to score the points for the moment. Of course, we'll check in with Morse and where he is. He's sort of a backup for the others, really. No disrespect to him, but it'd be impressive for him to finish ahead of the other 2 at this stage. There is Brett Furman. You just saw him there briefly, number 69. It's going to be a lot of weight on his shoulders here with that Drivers' Championship we've been talking about, and also the Teams' Championship as well. And I think for David Busterford and Colin McKenzie, they've just got to think, well, we've just got to go for this. There's no point in holding back now. We've just got to give it our best shot, even if the odds are against them going into this final round.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely something to be said about making sure that the moves are done far sooner rather than later in this race. You don't really want to be leaving it too long. And with there only being 35 minutes in this race, you don't really have a chance to sit and wait in the same way that you do on a Monday or a Thursday night in the PRL particularly, or even on a Sunday night with 1 hour long races. You have to be on it immediately, and if something goes wrong in the early stages, it's a lot more difficult to come back through the field with only a 35-minute race. So yeah, worries, I think, galore towards the front of the field. Just a bit of caginess and the occasion maybe getting to a couple of drivers, but well, the blinking's not going to help. I think a couple of the championship contenders know exactly what they need to do. They know who they need to beat and by how much, and that's what they're going to be focused on.
Through the final couple of corners now for Jay Steffi, who is not waiting around. Goodness me, through the penultimate corner, he's already gone. I didn't even know you could go that early, but he's sprung a few surprises there and got us underway immediately. Delgado gets into line just in behind him, and Thurman has to do the same as well, into third place. Then Tyler Graff in fourth, then Park fifth. It's actually meant the top 8 or so have stayed in exactly the same position as before, apart from Jared Keane, who's up past David Bush to third immediately there. Tyler Graff also under a bit of pressure here from Park, and he will try in turn to put the pressure on Thurman as well, as the top 5 get away immediately. Here on the run down in towards the hairpin for the very first time. 35 minutes of racing here in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series, underway with a bang here, as underway very quickly. Jay Steffi got us underway out the penultimate corner, through into the hairpin, side by side a bit further behind there. Seb Gauthier goes for a move on Nick Bruno to earn back that second place again. That battle will continue out of the hairpin on this very early green flag start.
Yeah, Delgado hassling Jay Steffi now down in towards this middle sector to try and make some moves through, and Delgado with a bit of a tighter line through the corner means that he looks like he's got a little bit more pace at the moment than his rival at the front of the field, but they single file out very early on. That big gap back between Solisard and Nick Bruno created by Bruno and Gauthier fighting, but it's interesting to see that there's not really anything in terms of the side-by-side action to talk of, especially in the top 20 as they work their way in towards the stadium section for the first time.
Through into the final couple of corners, and Jay Steffi leads the way. I don't want to say comfortably, because Delgado is right there with him, but he certainly surprised a few. The stretch out of the field, by the way, early on here is quite extraordinary. Right the way down the back of the field, it's 15 seconds to Mark Bray, who's currently the 31st and last car running. Everyone is still running, despite a bit of this going on. Andrew Vanara getting a right shot up the rear there from Nikos Xenadakis, but that is the biggest incident to report from lap 1, which says a lot, really.
It's benefit really, or definitely a positive from the opening lap or so in this race, that we've not really seen too much in the way of big incident, and everybody is still there or thereabouts to try and compete in this race. That's what we really want to see at this stage of the season. Delgado looking close, Delgado looking for the move, not going to go for it in the end. The same can be said for Jason Park, who almost feigned to the inside to maybe just get into Tyler Graff's mirrors, but no move in the offing in the end as they run their way through the hairpin once again. Really surprising to see how comparatively calm it is at the front of the field to what we've seen so far this season in opening laps.
Did see something similar at Bathurst, to be fair, until Brett Furman had his incident at turn 1. When all hell broke loose, it was pretty calm. This is Ryan Chandler at the final corner. I perhaps spoke too soon about lap 1 incidents, because right as I was saying that, didn't know it at the time, but Ryan Chandler was going for a spin out of the final corner, and now he is at the back of the field, but he is still going in 31st. He's a good 7 seconds off the back of the pack, though. This is back at the front again. Jay Steffi holding on to the lead, and I suspect a similar sort of Bathurst situation could transpire here, where the others stay behind the leader, knowing the effort of an overtake is not worth the other side of the coin, which is stay behind and fuel save. That's creating a bit of a train for the lead, and the 5 who were within a tenth of each other in qualifying are within 2 seconds of each other here early on in this race, and they're breaking away from the rest just a little bit.
Yeah, it's just like a question of how long this can continue with the group of cars at the front breaking away from the rest. It's stretching out a little bit towards Jason Park and Jared Keane at the moment. Bush and McKenzie still getting very close. The back of the number 22. Sully Sad is there or thereabouts as well, but Bruno is dropping quite a distance off the rear of the field. Jason Park, though, maybe looking for some kind of move up in towards the hairpin. That yellow rear-ended car, blue front nose, inside line on Tyler Graff. I think it's going to be just about stopped in time. Don't hit Brett Thurman. That would have been a difficult conversation to have, but getting the car stopped, getting the car out of the corner smartly as well. They're going to be locked side by side as they make their way to the right hand.
Well, this is in danger of letting the front 3 get away here, and Park realises that. Or does he? Oh, he looked at the inside again for a second bite there towards turn 8, but he couldn't do it. and that does indeed allow some of the others behind to catch up, like Jared Keane, and it does create a small margin as well. But on board we go with Jason Park in the Acura, number 55. Kraft just take a slightly strange line there, but that's an even stranger one from Park. He's off the road and he's going to stay in 5th at least. But that's the first little move. Maybe my prediction about everybody staying in line till the pit stops is going to be proved to be not true, because unlike Bathurst, you've got a real focal point for overtaking round here, down into that tight hairpin, a real obvious chance to go through if you want to make a move.
Yeah, I think generally throughout the rest of the season, we haven't had a circuit where there is a focal point to make him overtake. I mean, you know, we've been to circuits like Long Beach, like Donington Park, which in a GT3 car, there isn't much ability to overtake here. So even Jerez that we had a few weeks ago, difficult to make moves in these machines. So to have this kind of circuit to round off the season, which does have that very clear focus for overtaking and the big opportunity that it presents down in towards the hairpin, I think it's going to mean that drivers are more keen to make moves when they otherwise wouldn't have gone for it so far this season, and also force the issue a touch. Yes, they may not be... yes, they may lose a little bit of time by making the move, but if they can get themselves the track position, there could be a little bit more meaning behind that than just sitting behind and waiting, because you never really know how the race is going to pan out after the opening couple of laps.
Oh dear. I thought that was going to be a simple spin for Fichtner, but he was clipped by someone there. Now, I don't think any major damage was done, but he certainly was clipped by someone. He's now down at the back of the field, by the way. But there was a lot of avoiding action going on there. Aaron Sunday, I think, was one of the first, along with Robert Jeffries, to have to go around Fichtner, who went for a spin. It's all a big battle for 22nd, by the way, which is what all that was about down there. And here's the contact. Fichtner is in the McLaren. He was clipped there in the rear, so he moved forward, and that looks like Thomas Rep, who's just clipped him in the front there. His bumper briefly came off. I think it is reattached again, and he's able to carry on. It does look like everybody's gotten away without damage, but that's one of those moments that could have been a little bit worse for everybody.
Yeah, and you're always worrying as a driver coming up to an incident like that, whether you go outside, inside, because you never really know how the driver's going to act in the middle of the circuit. And invariably, if you pick a line, you'd always feel like you picked the wrong one. So really difficult to judge. Unlucky, really, to have any kind of contact down there after the after spinning it around in the first place. Then getting the contact from drivers coming through really is unlucky for both the car in the middle of the road and, of course, the driver who is causing the collision somewhat, you could say, through the middle of the corner. No such causing a collision, though, up towards the front, though. And we do still have the lunatic duo of Mackenzie and of David Bush III stuck behind Jared Keane a little bit somewhat for the time being. For the longer Jared Keane can stay here, the better it is for the championship, because with both SRTs ahead of both lunatics, there's nothing really that lunatics can do to close that gap at the moment.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and that's part of the game plan here, I think, for the Porsches. Oh, Charlie Graf running quite wide. Having said all that, we know that anything can happen. Last week was very much a lesson in that, as Brett Firmin was cruising to another pretty good result. In the end, he didn't lose out on many points, because Jason Park also went off the road a lap later, but it just shows that if indeed there is any hope left in this season, then you just got to remember those moments at Bathurst and just think back to them, because no one would have expected Brett Firmin going off the road down at turn 1 pretty much on his own, and so that will be the hope that everyone else keeps in their mind through the remainder of this race. Jason Park's still getting very close to Tyler Graf, just up in front here, as you can see. Scarily close in places. You'd think the Acura is close enough to have another go down here at the hairpin in a few moments' time into the slipstream. Will there be a move late on the brakes or not? Surely he's got to have a go here. Yeah, he does. Kraft saw it coming, though, and he just covers him off. It's easier said than done. I mentioned about that big focal point down in towards the hairpin. It's way easier said than done, though, to actually make a pass down there.
Yeah, getting the inside line can be often very critical, but at the same time, being able to get the drive earlier out of the corner by having the outside line can get you a lot more of an advantage heading down into the kink at 7 and then to the left-hander at turn 8. You know, the hairpin is a point on the circuit which, you know, it's a place where you can make that late braking manoeuvre. But if you're on the inside line, you never really know how wide or how narrow the line is going to be from the driver on the outside, which means you can't release the car off the corner so early because you don't necessarily have as much confidence that you're leaving a car's width the earlier you get onto the throttle. The car on the outside knows exactly when they can get onto the throttle because there is a defined limit of the circuit, so there's always that little bit more confidence there, which is why you can often see the outside line work that little bit better, and the hairpin is no different for that. But it is interesting to see how the inside line and the outside line work in this series. I feel like it's going to be different between the Fixed and the Sprint Series this evening because drivers will set their cars up for moments like that to kind of give themselves a little advantage in those really key points.
Delgado looks a bit close to Steffi this time round as well, actually. As they make their way out of turn 2 and 3. Looks very close, actually. Have a look at this. 2 tenths of a second. Less than 2 tenths, 10.5. Delgado's got a chance here. And Steffi knows it. Oh, is he going to go for it? He looked like he was having second thoughts, but he will go for the inside line. Really grabs the apex early. He's got to be careful of his exit, and Steffi's going to have a better run out the corner there. Delgado was really tight on the inside line there, but Steffi's not going to punish him for it. And Ricardo Delgado is going to take the lead of this race here. I'm not sure whether it was a spectacular exit from him or a bad one from Steffi, but the Corvette driver has got the lead. And Steffi, the pole sitter, down to second and looking behind him now.
Yeah, and Delgado doing exactly what he needs to do. I mean, it's going to be a difficult road and a difficult mountain to climb to get through on Brett Thurman in terms of the championship, but winning the race is realistically all he can do to ensure he gets the best chance of winning this race. Let's see if he can run away at the front of the field somewhat. He's already had 1 win this season. Mind you, Thurman's only had 2 himself. It's been pretty shared out between some of the rest. Parks had 2, of course, Jarrah Keane, Tyler Graf and Felix Felice all getting 1 win across the season, but it looks like Delgado looking to make himself the 3rd multiple-time winner of the season. The issue for him is that in terms of the championship, yes, he's going to be gaining as many points as he can on Brett Thurman, because it's not going to be enough with Thurman in 3rd.
Oh, big spin for Mackenzie. The AM Championship leader and the AM race leader has gone for a big spin through turn 1. His championship lead shouldn't be under too much threat here, but the team's championship charge is all but over for Lunatic Racing, with Colin McKenzie going for a big spin through turn 1. He drops all the way down the field, down to 23rd, and there's big battles going on back here, by the way. Colin McKenzie goes for a big spin, and that's the end of that for Lunatic Racing, surely, and for Colin McKenzie as well, in terms of capping off the season with a race win. He drops right to the very back end of the field.
He does, but you know, the silver lining for him is that he should be able to comfortably, without crashing towards the end of this race and just picking up the points, be able to come home with the AM driver's title and with the points advantage that he's been able to build up over the course of the season, but stuck in an awful point on the racetrack. Able to reverse it into the wall momentarily there, not what he needs at all, but still, in the running order, still involved, still would pick up points at the moment. She's the key. Problem is he's got to find his way through on quite a few cars to get himself towards the top 20 once again. Got enough time, the 22 minutes or so, got him more than enough opportunities with the pace that he has to make his way through on at least a handful of drivers.
Into the pit lane for Tyler Graf already. That's a bold call. I'm not sure that's the best call, but it is a bold call, and we absolutely respect that. With just under 22 minutes to go. By the way, that means that Luke Davis now is a Lunatic Racing driver who's going to be scored as a point scorer, but he's down in 6th at the moment, and chances of him doing anything now without an SRT Orange Calamity is quite unlikely. There is Tyler Graf down at the bottom of your screen, and now the race is really going to single file out, and people will get their heads down in the top 4 because Tyler Graf's around another part of the circuit. Unfortunately for him, I think he's going to come out right in traffic here, and he is just going to get out ahead of McKenzie, which is a good thing for Tyler Graf. He won't have to get past all those guys battling away for 22nd, but he's in a world of traffic here. This is always the danger of a leader pitting early on, and Tyler Graf is going to be experiencing that here in the next few minutes.
I guess of any circuit this season where, with the exception of Daytona, where drivers may feel like they can make the moves through the traffic, it would be here at the Hockenheimring. Let's see if he's able to do it as he runs up behind a couple of the AM drivers in towards the hairpin. Number 64 had a bit of a difficult time as they worked their way through the hairpin. That is Kevin Bergqvist behind Mackenzie and Rep for the time being. The Mustang doing a good job. It's in a camouflage livery there to get ahead and up into P23. You may not be able to see him coming, but he's doing a good job in the race.
Through the middle sector for these guys at the back end of the field. It seems like these guys are having a more entertaining fight, to be honest, as Aaron Sunday gets out the way of Tyler Graf. That's quite nice of him, but I'm not sure everyone's going to do that for one of these race leaders. Tyler Graf, who is, or was, 4th at the time of pitting, and now all the way down in 20th. He's been having a good last few weeks, to be honest, Tyler Graf. Won last week at Bathurst, top 10 the week before that, top 5 the week before that, a podium, in fact, at round number 6, Road Atlanta. So he has been having a successful end to the season. What's gone on here? Oh, there's 3 cars off through turn 1. There's a couple of cars stranded either side, and just in the background I saw someone collide into the wall as well down there. So this is going to take some unpacking. Dave Jensen was one of them. He went off in the Porsche initially. One of the Corvettes in behind couldn't avoid him. Jensen smashes into the wall. The Corvette comes into the inside wall. Jensen's had to tow, so he's completely out of it. And look in the background here. Who's this in the background? Another one of the Corvettes in the background went for a big spin. Now was that Regan Chandler maybe who went round? There's the other Corvette who's got back going again. It's difficult to quite see who is where at the moment and what's gone on. It might be Ryan Chandler, in fact, who went for that spin in the other Corvette. I mentioned that this is where the action is a bit further down. Wasn't expecting to see quite so much of it there through the final corner.
No, and I think a couple of drivers almost surprising themselves by getting caught up in moments there. Clearly not the right line from Jensen to go wide into the gravel. Very easy to almost just the rear end walk you out there if you want to hold on to the car. Regan Chandler, this is what he saw. How easy was it to avoid for him? Oh, well, I mean, he just got unlucky in choosing the wrong way to avoid the collision. Hits the car once, hits the car twice, hits the pit wall as well. Not really the ideal line for Regan Chandler, but as you can see in the background, the car's smashing into the barrier. Almost comical to find 3 cars off the road down the main straight, particularly when, we hadn't seen what had gone on beforehand.
Just 18 minutes to go here at the Hockenheimring. And indeed, of this PRL GT3 Fixed Series season, about half of this race still remains. Top 4 is Ricardo Delgado, Jay Steffi, Brett Furman and Jason Park on your screen at the moment. Steffi coming under increasing pressure here from series leader Brett Furman. He really needs to be in the top 15 today to be guaranteeing himself a title, and at the moment he's more than 20 seconds ahead of the drivers who can prevent him from doing that. So looking good for him, looking good for the team, and at the moment he's focused on this race. Steffi is letting it get away from him though. Delgado nearly a second out front, and you just wonder now what the likes of Furman and Park and Tyler Graf further down as well are going to do about it.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to really judge at this stage. We are still, we're just crossing over that halfway point in the race, but I think we're still a little bit or a couple of laps away from drivers coming into the pit lane. We have seen them run their fuel tanks as dry as they possibly can. I think difficult to really judge where these drivers are going to be in relation to each other once they make their way down pit road. They may all pit on the same lap. We may see Ricardo Delgado and Steffi have to come in slightly earlier with them having led the field and use a little bit more fuel in this race. But yeah, always tricky to necessarily pinpoint exactly how the pit stops are going to pan out. But for Brett Thurman, all he has to really do is make sure he doesn't make a big mistake like he did at Bath. It doesn't matter if he drops a position or two, because being in the top 10 really is going to be enough for him, and he will know that. He just would, I think, rather stay towards the sharp end, give him that little bit of a buffer. I guess he just knows that if push comes to shove, if Jason Park starts to make some aggressive moves, it is okay for him to let him through.
There's previous race leader Seb Gauthier coming through towards the camera right now in the McLaren. AM race leader, that is, making his way through a pit stop now. Jared Keane at the top of your screen, still just ahead of David Bush III. And in a very strong position for SLT Orange. I think we were talking about it earlier on. SLT Orange were with their two-pronged attack up front in the top 10, trying to hold back the Lunatic Racing drivers. Not that it really matters now, but It was a tactic that was working. It was allowing the guys to get further out front in the top 5. Well, that's not really necessary anymore, so I wonder whether Keane's going to go back to full speed ahead, but the damage is probably done. The gap over 5 seconds, and you can't really even see the drivers up ahead through the twists and the turns of this circuit. They may well catch a glimpse out of this corner here, but through the mist it's pretty difficult. That's how big the gap is at this stage of the race. 15 minutes still to go, and pit stop still to be made. Brett Furman decides to come in though, as does Chase Steffi. I'm not sure that's what Furman was hoping actually. If he doesn't get out ahead of him here with a short pit stop, he could be in for a very miserable final quarter of an hour.
Yeah, that's not really what you want to have at the end of the season, especially with it being the longest season, and particularly with such a poignant ending to this race. But with quite a few drivers now in the pit lane, it looks like it's going to get busier and busier with every passing lap from here on out. Brett Thurman can get out without too much of a hitch. A 10.6 second stop is much quicker than we're seeing from Jay Steffi, who is stopped in the box for a long time in the 2.47. He is still stopped there. Let's see how long it's going to take for him to come out of the pit lane. But not really what he needs towards the back end of the season, and I think it'd be fair to say that Brett Thurman is going to be pleased about how that's transpired. It's just another couple of spots that will make sure that almost he can ensure the title in the final 15 minutes.
It has to be a speeding penalty for Jay Steffi. Kevin Berkeley, Dean Cabana and Christopher Ryan's had similar length pit stops. They may well have been speeding as well. Jay Steffi is now back out onto the circuit again. It is indeed speeding, surely, for him. So Brett Thurman well out in front. Tyler Graf is 3 seconds behind Thurman. His pit stop was 7/10 shorter, so take that, or longer I should say, so take that into account. But aside from that, Thurman's been going a lot quicker out front with the other 3 than Graf has been going while working his way through the field, and that's exactly what I thought might happen. There is Tyler Graf. As I said at the time, bold of him to try it, but I'm not sure it was entirely logical, really. And he will drop down. Jason Park comes in. You'd imagine he'll be ahead of Tyler Graf.
You would, but where will he come out in relation to Brett Thurman? I think it's going to be the interesting question. He stops in his box. Oh, he doesn't. He has to reverse. That's going to cost him an extra couple of seconds for Jason Park. Maybe he will come out a little bit closer to Tyler Graf in the end. Jared Keane in the box as well, as we see him get up and down off of the jacks very quickly, clearly taking a tyre or two. Jason Park, there were a couple of seconds extra in the box. Where is Tyler Graf? There he is on the outside. Through he goes in the end.
There's your difference. 12.9 in the box for Park. That's really long, and that's why Graf has stayed in front regardless, despite being 1.5 seconds quicker in the box. Look at the gap, it's not very large, so Graf has lost time on the circuit, but he's gained it back again in the pit lane. In fact, 12.9 seconds is the slowest pit stop of anybody right the way down to those with speeding penalties, and Jay Steffi in 23rd. Of those who have not got speeding penalties, Jason Park's pit stop was the longest, and it looks like he's going to lose further points to those around him in the championship. He might get ahead of Sonny Sadden, maybe David Busterford, to get into the top 3 in the championship by the end of the season, but that's another couple of positions wasted there on a really long stop for Jason Park.
Yeah, and of course missing his pit box isn't going to be helping on that whatsoever, but gutting for Jason Park. My word, Tyler Graf. That's not quite the racing line as he makes his way back onto the former circuit, as he goes all the way wide and off the track, but he's now in towards the stadium section comfortably so. Jason Park will start to try and reel him in, I'm sure. Delgado and Bush now both into the pit lane. Let's see if Pete Mejia follows them in. He's been able to almost hold up Brett Thurman a touch as they run their way in towards the final couple of corners. It looks like Mejia may even be staying out for one extra lap here, which means Thurman's going to have to make a move here. Otherwise, he could find himself a little ways behind. Mejia comes in anyway, that ruins that point. But Thurman, let's see how close he gets to Ricardo Delgado. We'll see him come through turn number 1, but it doesn't look like he's going to be close enough to make any kind of move, at least into the hairpin this time round.
This is more like the Delgado of old. He's in the lead here at the Hockenheimring with 11 minutes to go. He's been having a pretty rough second half to the season, although he has got 2 top 10s in a row, 2 top 5s in a row indeed, but he just had that little stumble through the mid part of this season, the DNF at Road Atlanta. He's just not quite been able to get ahead of Brett Thurman really in the championship ever since Daytona, where Thurman had his problems. So Delgado leads ahead of Furman. Then it's Tyler Graf, who's ahead of Jason Park. Jared Keane not far behind him. David Busterford has lost the slipstream of Keane. Then it's Sully Sad. Nick Bruno's leading in the AMs. Nikos Sanadakis just behind him. Then Seb Gauthier rounding out the top 10. And there's some pretty big gaps in between a lot of those guys as well. Gauthier actually battling with Dave Peterson for the final spot inside the top 10, with Andrew Venaro there as well, who's in 12th, just in the background. You can see it actually through the mist. The headlights going through the fast right-hander of turn 7, but Delgado leads, and he could be on his way to a first race win since Daytona back in the middle of January.
Yeah, quite some time since we were at Daytona, but Delgado doing the best that he can to get himself to the line. Of course, therefore the last time that Delgado won on an evening, on a Tuesday evening in the PRL, we also got a winning margin in the Sprint Series of less than 1,000th of a second. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get a little bit more of the same in race 2. I doubt it, being at Hockenheim and the difficulties you're going to have out of the final corner, but you never know. You can always hope for a grandstand finish to the season. Less than 10 minutes to go, though, and I think Brett Thurman, he's going to be close. I just don't think he's going to be close enough, and I don't think he's going to be willing enough to go for the move. Yes, there's the win on the line, and there's the possibility of getting the final win of the season would be a really, really good feeling for Brett Thurman, I'm sure. But a better feeling is winning the championship, and you're going to be finding yourself safer in P2, especially if you've got a big 3.5 second gap back. There's no real risk required in going for the win here.
No, I don't know whether he will or not, but something inside me is just saying that he might well get to the back of Delgado, who maybe give this a go at the very end. Maybe you're right, he's just going to sit on that margin, that cushion that he's got at the moment just behind him, and he's going to see out the title with another podium here. But, and it would, by the way, be his 6th podium in the last 7 races, but he may well just give this a go. Tyler Graf versus Jason Park is on again here. We saw this a bit in the first stint of the race. Graf came out ahead of Park because of a shorter pit stop, but Park is quicker. I think that's been pretty clear, actually, throughout this race, and he's showing that again now. Through into the final sector, he's just missed the apex there, so he's not quite going to be challenging towards turn 12 and the rest of them, but he is lurking, and Tyler Graf will be looking over his shoulder here, defending perhaps for another podium in what he can certainly sign off as a very successful end to his season.
Yeah, and you really want to be ending the season on the high, getting that good feeling going into any future ventures, and particularly with some of the seasons that the drivers have had, and with the ups and downs that they have been able to achieve and suffer in equal measure, to end the season on a positive note is far better than ending the season on a negative note. If you swapped if you had an awful result in the penultimate round and a fantastic result in the final round, you're going to leave the season and look back on it much fonder than if those two results were the other way around. So I think there's going to be a lot of keen overtakes happening in the next 8 minutes or so, particularly in that mid-pack, and especially with a lot of the drivers still fighting over not just their positions in their own individual class championship, but in the overall championship as well.
Just over 7 minutes to go, and the championship situation's looking secure for all of those who came into today with a bit of a lead. SLC Orange especially are going to make the biggest gains of any of the leaders today. Colin McKenzie is still quite a long way down, by the way, in the AM standings, 20th overall, and well outside the top 5 in the AM standings individually. Not that it really matters. I mean, Pete Measure isn't really taking advantage of it anyway. He's only 5 positions ahead in 15th at the moment. There's the view back from Graf. How does Park go about trying to make this move? Again, we saw hints of it in the first stint. He is going to definitely give this a go. And we know that it is possible as well. The straight line speed of the Acura compared to the Porsche just give him a chance into the hairpin. He's just got to execute it now.
Yeah, and going to make sure that he hits his marks in a way that means he can't really make big enough mistakes from here to lose the position that he's been able to almost earn at this stage of the race as we approach the half-hour mark with just over 5 minutes to go. I think a lot of happy faces will be found in the paddock after this race. Looks like it's going to be a decent day for a few drivers, but the likes of Graf and Park, I think, will only be happy if they manage to get themselves the P3 finish that one of them will occupy by the end of the race. Not too sure who just yet, but there's definitely going to be one of them, unless Jared Keane can get himself a little bit more involved. One of these two looks like they're going to be on the podium in the final race of the season, and both have had very much up and down seasons. Graf's had wins, he's also had low moments like at Zandvoort where he cut the pit lane line, which lost him a chance at a great result. A podium would be a fantastic way to cap off a season that hasn't garnered a championship, but at the same time has gained some good memories.
I thought that was going to be the chance there for Park until the final hairpin, actually. Well, the only hairpin, but not quite. Delgado's been caught a little bit by Brett Furman. There are the margins. Ignore lap 15. That is obviously the pit lap, but yeah, they're trading blows at the moment. I think this lap's actually going to be pretty big for Furman, though. Might even be the fastest of the race. With just 5 minutes to go, the fuel's going to be quite low now. His tyres might be going a bit off. Let's have a look at the times as they go over. I'll report them to you. 39.1 from Delgado, 38.7 from Thurman. That's 4 attempts gained. Now, he kind of needs to do that again and again, actually. By the way, it was the middle sector where Thurman really gained, but he kind of needs to do that again and again. You need to be really close if you want to actually make a move here. And like you were saying earlier, with this amount of time remaining, I just wonder whether Furman might not bother here, and he might just secure the title from second.
This stage of the race, maybe not the out-and-out racers move, but at the same time, with the championship on the line, you're not going to risk throwing it away by overtaking Ricardo Delgado, your closest rival, who needs you to drop down the field. I mean, the only way that Delgado can win this is if there's a big mistake from Thurman. And so the last driver that Thurman wants to almost, give a whiff of possibility to, and the risk that he's going to take away is to the driver who could benefit the most. So, yeah, I think we are going to see him stay right here towards the end of the race, which is going to annoy Delgado. It's going to annoy him a lot because he can see that Brett Thurman is just sitting there and, competent enough. Maybe he even could go for the move, but is choosing not to. But there's nothing that really Delgado can do, of course. What he can what he can gain mentally from this is that he is at the moment wrapping up the vice championship, but really races for that,
Absolutely, 3 minutes to go. Now, it's going to... Oh, no, excuse me, I was doing the maths wrong. It is going to be 2 laps to go this time round. Through the first corner for these leaders overall. In the AM Championship and the AM race, I should say, Nick Bruno is leading the way ahead of Seb Gauthier, who's second. There is Bruno. Haven't seen too much of him, but there he is, leading the way ahead of Gauthier. Then it is Luke Davies, who's actually scoring points for Lunatic Racing as things stand in the Teams Championship, but he is 13th. Pete Measure is 4th in the AM race with Ian Southern behind him, then Neil Alexander, Robert Jeffries, Aaron Sunday, Colin McKenzie. They're all AMs in a row in the field. Colin McKenzie came into today with 38 points over Pete Measure, so he is still going to be champion at the end of today. Measure needs to be in the top 13 to even stand a chance, and at the moment he's 15th. There is McKenzie, not the way he would have liked to cap off the season, but it looks like he is going to be the champion.
Yeah, I know, it's, stumbling to the finishing line, but stumbling to the finishing line in first place. I think everyone would rather do that than get there after just about losing out to a couple of other drivers around you. And yes, there's the mistake towards the end of the race. Yes, there is the fact that Lunatic are unlikely to pick up the team's championship. The consistency that Colin McKenzie has shown this season has been really, really impressive. To be an AM driver coming into this race 8th in the overall standings really shows the quality that he has shown all season long. I mean, he looks like he may even hold off Andrew Prickett as well to make sure that he stays inside that top 8 in the championship. And I mean, what a season he's had when you look at it that way. 9 points behind Jared Keane, who of course has been fighting for the team's title at the front of the pro class. Yeah, it's been a really, really impressive season to watch. And from the AM class, he's dominated quite a few races this season, but at the same time in the pro class, he would have had a few good results as well.
This is the last lap of the race, by the way. The final ever lap in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series here at the Hockenheimring, and it wasn't a good enough exit from Furman there to challenge Delgado. I thought there was going to be he looked like actually he was posing quite threateningly through the last part of the penultimate lap, but he didn't get a good enough exit, and Delgado was able to easily hold on through into the hairpin. Now down towards turn 8 in front of the Mercedes grandstand. The battle for third's on. Well, I wasn't expecting that. Tyler Graf versus Jason Park in towards the hairpin as well as this leading fight. Graf wins it back again though, down in towards turn 8. Looks like he is going to succeed in this, although Park is going to throw everything through the final corners, which is exactly where Ricardo Delgado is right now. Into the final double right-hander of turns 15 and 16. Delgado, by the skin of his teeth, is going to win the final race in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series here at the Hockenheimring, with Brett Thurman being crowned the champion just in behind him. Checker flag waves here at Hockenheim, and it is Thurman who's the champion, Delgado the race winner, and Thurman's team, SRT Orange, who win the team's championship as well. Further behind, Nick Bruno, 19 seconds off the lead, is going to win in the AM class here today. Third place in the championship currently, and he's going to win for the first time in 3 weeks since Road Atlanta when he last took the victory. But in the championship, again, it is still going to be Colin McKenzie who wins that AM championship. But there's Furman, pulls off to the side. Not sure whether we're going to see some donuts from him or not, or indeed whether we'll see some from this man as well, who didn't actually work his way through the field very much in the end, but it didn't really matter. He is still going to be crowned as the champion. Despite losing points in this final round, Colin McKenzie is the AM champion in Season 1 of 2025 of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series.
Yeah, and, you know, such great seasons from both of the champions in the end. Brett Thurman having a real season to remember with 2 wins, you know, 7 top 5s by the end of the season, a couple of difficult races in round 2 at Daytona and last week at Bathurst, but with the exception of those 2, every single other race he found himself on the podium. Really an impressive run. And for Colin McKenzie, dominance in an AM class where he was able to build up a 38-point margin despite not scoring those top-end points, scoring, you know, those mid-40 points, which makes it even more impressive for him.
It is Ricardo Delgado who wins the final race of the season here by 0.6 of a second ahead of Brett Thurman, the Pro Drivers Championship and part of the team's champion as well. Tyler Graf finishes on the podium with them, with Jason Park and Jared Keane rounding out the top 5. David Bush, South and Nikos Sanadakis were next. Sanadakis got past Nick Bruno on the last lap, by the way, who still wins in the AMs, and to Seb Gauthier, who rounds out the top 10. Dave Peterson finishes 11th ahead of Andrew Venaro in front of a string of McLarens. Luke Davis, David Morse, Pete Measure and Ian Southern, who was 16th. Then Neil Alexander, Robert Jeffries, Aaron Sunday and Jay Steffi round out the top 20. Even further behind was Colin McKenzie, just behind those guys, but he still wins the title from 21st ahead of Thomas Rep, who was just on the back of them. First driver over a minute back was Jakob Fichtner, who spun through turn 2 early in the race. Kevin Berkvis finished 24th, and True to SA rounding out the top 25. Mark Bray and Ian Cabana were the final drivers on the lead lap, with Christopher Rhines 1 lap down, Dave Jensen 5 down, Regan Chandler 6 down after spinning. They were actually in the same incident, sort of. Different parts of the same incident, if you like, down at the back end of the field, with Ryan Chandler at the very back end of the field, by the way, also retiring from the race. Let's have a chat to Brett Thurman first, shall we? I know he didn't win the race, but he has taken the title here in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series. Congratulations, Brett, on second place here tonight, but the Pro Drivers Championship as well. Just give us your thoughts at the end of this race.
Wow, I'm just astonished. I can't believe it. Thanks to my team and Jared and just everybody helping me get here. And thanks to you and PRL. I'm going to miss them. And it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
How was the race here generally? I mean, you were closing in on Delgado at the end. It looked to me as if he didn't quite get the good enough run out of turn 2 and 3 that he quite needed to have a go at making the overtake. But how hard were you trying there to crown your season with a race win, or were you just riding around for second place?
Well, you know, it was force the issue if I wanted first. And I knew Delgado wasn't going to just hand it over. He's really quick. And so, with the championship on the line, I'm going to, wisdom's the better part of valor on that. But my only hope was to push him as hard as I could and see if he'll hand it to me. But it wasn't meant to be. But I'm happy in second. And the championship, of course.
Well, congratulations on the championship, Brett. Thanks so much for coming to have a chat with us throughout the season, and go and enjoy the victory.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thanks to all the guys at with PRL, and gonna miss them. And anyway, I'll hopefully see you soon.
Absolutely. Brett Furman, our champion here in the Pro Drivers' Championship here, the PRL GT3 Fixed Series here tonight. Ricardo Delgado was the race winner, and we can now chat to him as well. Congratulations, Ricardo, on your second race win of the season and the first one since Daytona at round number 2. How does it feel to take the race victory here on the final round?
It feels good closing the season with a win. It definitely feels good.
How was this circuit in the Corvette? You had to do a little bit of overtaking, you had to do a lot of defending, but how was the circuit generally to race on?
Oh yeah, it was definitely way better than other circuits that was Porsche dominant. Definitely, I think this circuit equaled the field, so it was nice racing for the Corvette. And I did the overtake on safety, and at the very end had to lower the pace because I think if I had kept the pace, we were going to do an extra lap and I was going to run out of fuel. So that's why I back up to red.
Makes sense. Well, congratulations on the win here, your second race win of the season, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thanks to having me. Special thanks to Pneumatic Racing. All my penalty points are due to them. So it's a season of what if, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations, as I say, on the win, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Here, Ricardo Delgado there, the winner here tonight at the Hockenheimring in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series. Tyler Graf hung on for a podium at the very end at their third place. Congratulations, Tyler, on hanging on. Tell us about your last lap or the multiple last lap battles with Jason Park, who was hounding you throughout the race.
Honestly, I was kind of just disassociating and trying to pretend like he's not there. This isn't a track I like. This isn't a track I've ever really done well at. So I was literally just thinking my way through everything I was doing just to make sure I didn't do something silly. So, glad to end up with a podium. I was hoping that the undercut would work, but it's always a risk when you do that. So. But yeah, I'm just excited. I don't really know what Jeff was doing behind me. I know when he got next to me once, we battled it to that next left-hander, but he raced clean as always, and it was a good time. That when he was next to me, I wasn't disassociating, at least, so we have that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, what was the thinking throughout the pit stop phase for you? I was pleasantly surprised to see somebody doing something a little bit different to what we've seen throughout a lot of the season, and what indeed we ended up seeing from a lot of them here tonight as well. But why did you decide to pit so early?
I was just kind of stuck. All of us, we all qualified like less than a tenth from each other. So making a pass, you have to be a couple tenths quicker to get that run and get next to him, and it didn't seem like it was going to work, and if we started battling, we were going to let the leader get away, so I just thought I'd bet on myself, and I think it was working, and I know sometimes that it's just tough to get through traffic, and that's part of it.
Well, congratulations on ending off your season very strongly indeed, not just tonight here with the podium, but in the last few weeks as well, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well throughout the last few weeks. Yeah,
thank you, and thanks everybody at PRL. You guys do it the best, and it's been great racing here, and I hope we can do it again someday.
All right, thanks very much, Tyler Graf. Third place here tonight at the Hockenheimring in the PRL GT3 Fixed Series finale here tonight. Nick Bruno wins in the AMs a little bit further down. It's ninth overall, but a win in the AMs. Congratulations, Nick, for your first win in a few weeks in the AM Championship. How does it feel to end off the season on a high?
Yeah, it feels really good. Totally did not expect this. Came into Hockenheim with maybe 10 laps of practice, but got better and better as practice and qualifying went on. And as a tradition, just had to wait until Colin had an incident and was able to make the most of it. Sorry for him, but he won the championship by a lot, I'm sure. I didn't even check, but, I'll be okay.
About 30 points, but yourself in third place. How do you assess the season as a whole, finishing third in the AM Drivers' Championship?
I think of it, I look at the DNF at Daytona and picking the Mustang when I shouldn't have, when I'm driving the Porsche all season, and I forget what that was somewhere else. I think that it could have gone a lot better, but I'm happy with third place anyway. Absolutely.
Well, you made history, at least in my experience, by picking the wrong car. So I guess that's I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but there you go. Anyway, congratulations certainly on winning tonight in the AM class, and thanks for coming to chat to us after the race as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nick Bruno there, the winner in the AM class here tonight at the Hockenheimring. Well, the racing's not done just yet. The Fixed Series may be over, but the PRL GT3 Sprint Series is coming up next. One final race here in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, and it's going to be a wet race here at the Hockenheimring with championships on the line in the Pro Drivers' Championship, especially in the AM Drivers' Championship, and the Teams Championship as well. Welcome to RaceSpotTV, everybody. It's still myself, Ian O'Leary, Darren Thacker alongside Ramiro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras, and what a finale we have here in store. After this 9-round season, we've landed ourselves at the Hockenheimring for one last race. In the pro standings, Elliot Brzezinski comes into today with a 25-point advantage over Kevin Denier and Chris Beats, who's only 30 points behind. Aidan Young is fourth, who's been having a very good last few weeks, by the way, on the podium 3 weeks in a row. Uthman Alawi is fifth, ahead of Simon Theriault, the final driver who could mathematically win the title, although it would be a long shot. Ryan Buchtel, Kevin Simpson, Obado Diaz and Ethan Bass round out the top 10. In the AM standings, Kevin Kiernitz is leading by 6 points ahead of Blake Ziti, and Devon Brock's only 13 points back. This is going to be the championship to watch of the three. Gavin Ammerman and Mark Elliott round out the top 5. Moshe Scare, Jermaine Warren, Dino Vella, Justin Welsh and Jacob Blankenship round out the top 10, some of whom haven't really raced for weeks now. In the team standings, SimCity Racing have almost got it tied up from Field and Nez Racing, but not quite. Apex Racing Team and Advanced Motorsports only having one driver for the last couple of weeks has not helped them. SCR3 are in fourth out of Team PGZ, with Vima Racing Team Mexico GP only 10 points off the top 5. Solpec are not that far behind either. SimCity Racing 2 are 8th, and have WSR Esports Putgiger raking a rise through the standings in recent times. They're now tied with SRTE for 9th. Well, it is raining out on this circuit. The time comparison compared to the Fixed Series, Dara, does not matter at all, because The 151s are set in vastly different conditions here at the Hockenheimring. Raining pretty hard out there on the circuit in the final seconds of qualifying.
Conditions to really end your season on, so not the easiest for a lot of these drivers to have to adapt to as we get towards the end of the qualifying session in just a minute. But you know, I think the likes of Elliot Brzezinski looking to get the good qualifying result to get himself towards the front of the field, and particularly in that AM class. I've noticed that looking at the timing page, there's only 5 of them here this evening, and you know, that means that there's not going to be too much room to move around in terms of positions or points for them, but of course they will pick up the points accordingly that they would within the overall standing. So it doesn't really matter if they win or come second. It depends on where they finish overall in this race, which will define where they are in the championship. They're somewhere down there, and I'm not too sure where.
Yeah, we'll figure all that out here in a few moments when we've got the grid. Sorry, I was looking at the timing screen, and all of a sudden there was about 3 minutes extra on the clock than what there was before, but that's just because they've ended the session and the checker flags waving. Not sure if there are going to be any more laps. I don't think so. Chris Beats is he going all right? I'm not sure. We'll see. Oh, he was going all right. He goes up to 3rd. So yeah, I've noticed his first sector was pretty decent. He does move up to 3rd place, so a decent lap from him, but nobody able to get near Elliot Brzezinski, who's surely on a victory lap here tonight, although it's a very similar situation to Furman. While he is relatively comfortable, he can't afford to just poodle around and let this race pass him by. He's certainly got to try hard. There goes Devon Brock over the line. He's one of our AM Drivers' Championship contenders and needs a good race today as well. 28 drivers have set qualifying laps throughout this session, and another couple have decided not to. Hopefully they will race in a few moments' time when we get onto the grid. Let's have a look at the grid then, with Elliot Brzezinski leading the way once again, and surely on a victory lap towards the championship. SimCity Racing are 2nd and 3rd, with Sim Ontario starting from the 4th place. Aidan Young looking to continue that streak of podiums from 5th, ahead of Jaden Conright, who shares row 3 with him. Lee Ludeke and Ryan Putel are next, to Alvaro Diaz and Ethan Bass, the first of the Mustangs, in 10th place this time round. Marc-Andre Garon and Nicholas Mazza are on row 6. 13th place is Kevin Simpson with Juan Lemus alongside an all Acura 7. Steve Baker and Blake Ziti, the AM pole sitter. Kevin Denier, who's quite a long way down for him, 17th, ahead of Emmett Lingvist, who is 18th. 19th place has gone to Nicolas Lopez Gonzalez, Miguel Ango Fonseca 20th, Matt Stadnowick next to David Mendonca, Joshua Spears, and then Gavin Ammerman, who's the next to the AMs, in 24th place. Kevin Kiernitz down in 25th, ahead of William Benson. Jermaine Warren and Devon Brock are on the back row. We will speak about what the implications of that are here in a few minutes' time. In fact, we'll do that now while we're waiting for the session to end. That is a big break for Blake Ziti, who is 6 points behind Kevin Kiernitz going into this race. But in that qualifying session there, he was 16th, with Kiernitz 25th. That would overturn the margin if it stays that way to the end of the race.
Yeah, and so, off the start, he's going to find himself in a, live championship points, championship lead. The issue is that the further back you are on the field, notionally, the easier it is to gain positions. There can always be crashes in the big train of cars between Ziti and Kiernitz coming into this race. There's always that risk that they're going to have to face as we go in towards this race. Blake Ziti, though, I wouldn't quite say it's his to lose with the position that he's in, but I think he will feel like he's in a fantastic position to pick up this championship. He had such a great start to the season, picked up a couple of wins in class very early on. It's just not really materialised in the last few weeks, but to get over the line right at the end would be really satisfying, I'm sure. And for Kevin, he's disappointing.
This is one of the laps of Elliot Brzezinski here in the qualifying session we just saw. 151.2 for him in the wet weather conditions through turn number 1. Trying to stay off that curb, but you can just see how slippery it is, and that's going to be a very common theme throughout this lap. It's lucky that Hockenheim isn't one of those circuits where curbs are used all of the time through all of the corners, but there are a lot of places where you do use the curb, and so you've got to be careful to just dance around them as best as you can. And Brzezinski did that 4 tenths of a second quicker than anybody else.
Yeah, and you can just see how difficult it is to really see the cars in front with the amount of spray that's been kicked up running towards the hairpin. You don't really want to take that extreme outside line into the corner. There's a little bit more water on that part of the circuit, and the inside line working very nicely for Butinsky as he gets it stopped onto the apex and out very smartly as well. Difficult to do in conditions like this, but able to negotiate his way through the hairpin with ease. Turn 7, a little bit of a slide. That car nearly stepping around, but Butinsky managing to gather it back up before coming in towards turn 8, dragging it back to the left-hand side of the track. But it does feel somewhat sedate, doesn't it, in these GT3s, even though they have got a lot of horsepower. It doesn't really work when there's a lot of water on the circuit to prevent that.
Through the final sector, this is where things, I would imagine, get really difficult, though, through the curbs. There's a bit more usage on the outside. Gets away with it, though. Can't imagine the spray particularly helpful here, but the slower speed, it's a little bit easier to care with. You just noticed that real dig to the left there just before getting on the outside curb, just to help keep things straight. Was able to monster the curb at turn 13, though. Now he's staying off them through the final corner at 16. So it's all about where do you use them and where don't you? Because there are places where you can do it, but not everywhere. Otherwise you'll be in big trouble. Look at the visibility from here as well, by the way. The fog has descended, or has it missed? Whatever you want to, I'll let you decide that, but you cannot see very far. The rain's falling on the circuit, and when you're in the spray as well, you're not going to be able to see in front of your face because the spray's going to be everywhere. You're not going to be able to see into the distance either because of the fog. It's going to be a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, good job that the drivers are kind of, sat at home in their own rooms, because they would be getting slightly damp on the circuit if they were racing out there, and that, there could be a lack of need for showers, frankly, with the amount of water that you're likely to pick up back of the GT3s, albeit I know these aren't open-topped cars, so they'll still nice and dry inside. But hey, water can seep in through any crack in a car, and I think the drivers will just be happy to be keeping it nice and dry in their rooms. But windy day as well as a wet day, it's just not very nice. With it being the 1st of April as well, you'd feel like it would be a slightly nicer way to end the season in terms of the weather. But I mean, I know my sight isn't the best and I need new glasses, Ewan, but I genuinely cannot see the pit wall from that angle. It may be my feed, but I could not see it at all.
No, the visibility is quite bad. To be fair, on ground level, it looks a bit better, actually. But for up there, yeah. Very difficult indeed to really see too far in front. It's going to be a race of survival, and a dramatic race to end the season as well. Elliot Brzezinski is almost exactly the same amount of points ahead of his nearest rival than Brett Furman was, 25 points rather than 23. So it really only needs a top 15 to win the title from here. But, no one's going to feel safe in a championship lead, or indeed any kind of lead, at this race this time round because of the wet weather conditions. And we just know anything can happen. Multiple races in iRacing now that have had the wet weather have confirmed that to us, that you cannot ever rest in these conditions.
No, and all forms of races that we've had in wet weather conditions that can catch out some of the most experienced drivers and some of the fastest drivers on the iRacing platform. We saw that at the Daytona 24 Hour about a month and a half ago now, where you may think notionally that it's okay to try and manage the car in the wet, and the top drivers can typically negotiate their way around, but it's so tricky and so easy to make mistakes, and especially when you've got pressure like this with championships on the line. It's not going to be particularly easy for the drivers to be able to manage their way around the circuit, particularly in the opening stages when they're going to be wanting to make some moves.
We're not far away from those moves being made here very early on. The iRacing Daytona 24 is certainly the one I would point towards as well. If you ever want an example of how iRacing wet weather can catch literally anybody out, then Max Verstappen leading that race and crashing out twice in a 4-hour period certainly displays that. It is so much more interesting in iRacing now that we've got the possibility of wet weather. It looks, these conditions, that the chances of rain at the start of the day were like 100%, but that's certainly not the case here this season. The the races, all of the races have been subject to a sort of chance of rain, if you like, but this season in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, we've had rain pretty much every time that we've been threatened with it, almost. 50% was the only chance here at the Hockenheimring, although it feels more like 100%. It's the highest amount of chance we've had all season long, and it has certainly fallen in big numbers here. So a very important start coming up, but it doesn't quieten down after that. I reckon we're in for 40 very lively minutes here.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, and you can really see the areas of the circuit with so much standing water. Drivers want to avoid that like the plague, but at the same time, on the opening lap or two, you don't really have that much room to manoeuvre or change your line. There's drivers around you, there'll be drivers on the overlap, and you've got to be hyper aware of those around you. But the amount of standing water is going to be quite severe. I would be surprised if we see a couple of drivers just brake late into the hairpin, cause a bit of contact. So easy to do, especially when the visibility is going to be pretty much zero, and you have to guess where the cars are based off of where the spray's originating from.
This is going to be a huge opening lap, perhaps the biggest of the season. It is going to be a very, very busy opening lap indeed, as the pace car now makes its way through the final couple of corners, and Eddie Brzezinski will be in control. Now, is he going to go immediately like what Jay Steffi did out of the penultimate corner? No, he's going to wait. So the spray is actually going to be even bigger than what it would have been if he'd have taken on the strategy from the Fixed Series, and they're going to wait quite a long time here. This is going to be a big stack up in the background, and hopefully everybody sees it coming and they're not going to rear-end each other. The green flag waves for the final time in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, and they race down in towards turn number 1 for the very first time here at the Hockenheimring. They just about get out of it. That's a big slide on the outside line there, and they all get away out of the first corner and in towards the second braking zone of the lap. Brzezinski holding on to the lead quite nicely. Chris Beats can't quite get up into second place. He stays behind in third. It is a clean start, at least for the leaders, as they get on the power and fight with their cars down in towards the hairpin for the first time.
Yeah, and Chris Beats looking for the move, if we can even see where they are as they come in towards the hairpin. Now, inside line, I believe, for Uthman Alawi on the inside. Got to be careful as there's all kinds of squirming around on the brakes from Jaden Conright, who somehow comes through the middle and is going to pick off both drivers. I don't know where he's come from. I don't know if he realises where he's come from either, but he's up into the top two, moves all the way through the field. Drivers just trying to control the car, but I don't think everybody's been able to do it on the exit of the hairpin.
There's people coming to a dead stop through the hairpin with all of that going on. Looking again, there is Aidan Young on Uthman Alawi, can't do it in towards turn 8. Blake Ziti, meanwhile, is up to 13th, and he's having a great start. He's still 10 ahead of Kiernitz at the moment in the AM Championship battle. That's big for Blake Ziti, and a good start for him as well. But Brzezinski and Conright 1 and 2, if Fieldnets Racing are going to turn over this championship advantage, they needed a good start, and that's exactly what they've got here early on.
Yeah, really important to get that good launch off of the line, and more than a fair few drivers have been able to gain a couple of spots in the opening couple of laps. But, you know, I still can't get over that move from Jaden Conrad up the middle. It really shows that if you can be a little bit more committed or even make a little bit of a mistake, it can end up working out well for you on the brakes in such treacherous conditions. The field spread already quite wide here in the race. Kevin Simpson 16 seconds down, but thankfully only the one car that is out of this race, and I believe it's Juan Lemus, and that we won't be seeing again. Aidan Young gets through at turn 1 as well on Uthman Alawi, and from P2 for the 444, he's already back to P5.
It's not over quite yet. Side by side, Aidan Young on the defensive to the attack there and beats this. That's a big move from Simpson, I think that is, way down the inside, and creates all of this at the end of it. Ethan Bass spinning at one of the Acuras around and then getting driven into by the victim. It was all very ungainly. It was Juan Lemus, who is now down on pit lane, by the way. And likely out of the running for this race. Here comes Aidan Young again. Outside line this time on Chris Beats in the Porsche, who should have the traction on the inside line to stay ahead, and does indeed in the top 3. But Young is making a good start to this race. Through turn 7 he now goes. Will there be a move inside line here? No, but Young will be comfortable with the gains he's made so far, up to 4th position past Uthman Alawi for 5th. This is Simpson, by the way, a bit later on in the lap, already having gone down the inside of the hairpin. He went for a spin around turn 11.
Yeah, not really what you need to be having. Kevin Simpson finding the wall ever so slightly, just at this part of the circuit as we work our way through, with the likes of Budzinski, Comright and Chris Beats, and well, all of the front train really quite close together in the opening couple of laps. There have been a couple of minutes that have elapsed off the clock. We've got about 36 to go in this race, and it's just so treacherous still. I don't think it's going to get any better for the drivers, but with every passing lap they can learn a little bit more about the conditions and try and gain themselves a little bit more belief in what they have underneath them. The issue is, particularly for Budzinski and Comright towards the front of the field, they're reaching the conditions first, as they will be constantly changing and having to change accordingly. Everyone behind Clue is judging what the other drivers are doing and try and get the best line for themselves.
Young's having another go here. Comright on the defensive from him, but look at that, he's going to go for it anyway. Inside line of turn 2 and there's contact. He just about gets away with it. Comright catches the car. Young's still on the outside for turn 3 and 4 here. He's going to be on the curb. He's going to be in nowhere there. And now Beats is going to come back at him again. Comright's still alongside him though. This is going to be a real mess in towards the hairpin. If these lot don't just tone it down for the moment. In towards the hairpin they go. Beats is on the very outside. Is he backing out or is he going for this? He's sort of 3 wide there with Comright in the middle. Now he's going to turn underneath them. He's got someone right behind him though, Uthman Alawi, preventing him from doing that. And so Young does get through. Comright can't really go anywhere. He's not got the run, and Beast didn't quite get the run he required either. Now in towards turn 8, is there going to be a retaliation now from Comright? Not by the looks of things. Aidan Young takes second place and still holds it just for the moment. 2 seconds is the gap up to the leader, but Young's having such a brilliant start to this race.
Yeah, and Aidan Young, who's looking to get himself, if he wins tonight, he'd put himself 10th in the all-time winners list in the PRL, and it would be his first ever non-GT4 win in the PRL as well. So there's a lot on the line tonight for Aidan, and I think he'd be looking for that final win in what could be his final PRL race, depending on whatever happens in the future. But realistically, fantastic start. He just has to try and now build on this and catch up to Elliot Budzinski, who himself is looking like he's cruising to a title. I think if Aidan Young gets to the back of Budzinski, Elliot's not going to fight that one too hard, considering that he doesn't really want to put himself into a position to lose the championship, which he would be winning currently.
Matt Stenwick going off the road down there at turn 12. I'm just trying to go around the outside of someone. You do want the outside line through there. Well, most of the corners, but especially there. Just not quite that far outside line that time round. Message coming in YouTube chat, by the way, for complaining of a mid-pack start and being killed on lap 1. I think that might be Wan Levis. I don't know. It could be from Bass. They're both out of the race at the moment, which is why they're two are put forward. But either way, yeah, a couple of casualties from the opening laps, unfortunately, here, as there have been on many occasions throughout this season. Here comes Simon Theriault, looking down the inside of Alawi, and he can't do it there. Doesn't want to. Now he'll close in though. Alawi just broke a little bit too late for the hairpin. There's no run there for Theriault really. And Porsche is able to at least get him to a point of a similar exit as Alawi, but not through this high-speed corner. He'll have to back out, and he will be back into single file again. For whatever reason, Alawi is qualified better than he's opening this race.
I think in the opening 7 minutes of this race now, we are clearly seeing the drivers who are able to almost adapt to the conditions the best, but Budzinski's been pulling away at the front, taking on the front as well. But there are a few drivers who have gained some spots in the opening couple of laps, who are definitely putting themselves into a fantastic position to maybe gain themselves the spots that they would require for a position or two in the championship, even if the main championship gap for the first and second is a little bit bigger. That by no means means that everything else is over. A lot of positions still to finalise, not least, Chris Beats and Aidan Young for P3, even Kevin Denoyer, who's not here this evening. He is here this evening, but a long way down, not competitive just for the time being. That good for Brown. Aidan Young could somehow get second in the championship. Uthman Alawi and Simon Theriault. There's lots to be settled here. And each driver knows their individual fights and their battles and who they're racing. I think they're in their own individual heads looking around them and trying to work out where they're gaining and losing points at those championship rivals.
That was a pass there from Ludeke on Simon Theriault just in behind. Then Marc-Andre Garon is just in behind them as well. Not that you can really see him through the spray, but there's the side-by-side. The Acura on the inside line. He is there, I promise. And he will be holding on to the position indeed as well with that inside line. Ludeke, even though Theriault breaks a bit later on the outside, Ludeke will hold the inside and go through. At the moment, SimCity Racing's drivers, Chris Beats and Uthman Alaoui, are doing enough to hold on, even with a couple of opposition drivers doing particularly well. And here's one of the Ludeke on the outside of Theriault again. Garon trying to come through. He's got nowhere to go there, really. Now side by side. Oh, that's going to get awkward. There's a bit of awkward contact between the two of them there. And this is round the next corner. That was through turn 10, though, where there was some real awkward contact made. And there'll be some more down here in towards 11. They're both in really deep. And there goes Chris Beats, by the way. Passed by Conright and Alaoui just in front. He's slow. Here comes Ludeke trying to overtake him as well. Theriault nearly into the back of him. It's getting very busy here for third place.
Yeah, Garon and Gonzalez just trying to sort it out between themselves as well. Excuse me. As it looks like Nicolas Mazza may be trying to join this battle as they run into the final couple of corners. Wide from Marc-Andre Garon. Gonzalez up the inside, just got to find that line. Who end up working out for the 72 driver. He's going to get a very poor exit as well. But Garon may look for it down at turn 1. Be a brave man to make any kind of send into that fast kink, although it's a slightly slower kink in these wet conditions. Still not a place you'd really want to make a move with over half an hour just about on the clock.
The first 10 minutes of this race now gone. And look at this, it's not calming down. Conright versus Alaoui again, this time for third place. Alaoui on the inside of turn 3. Oh, that's close. Round the outside for Conright, who's through. Theriault goes off in the background, but where's Beats going to go? Is he going to push Alaoui to try and immediately regain the place? Is he going to battle with his teammate here? Conright's going to move it over to defend. Alaoui's going to go to the outside line. Conright will hang on, but he breaks too late. Alaoui goes to the inside line, and it's on all over again here. The gap is ballooning to the two leaders, by the way, because of all this. But Conright is now third. He nearly threw it away straight away, and the battle continues. Meanwhile, further down, Ubaldo Diaz gets it all wrong in towards turn 12 rather.
Yeah, and a big kiss to the wall, not really what he needs at all. He's dropped down to P12 behind, it was Mazza and Baker at the time, and Mazza's gained 2 positions in about half a lap without really doing anything different. So good news for him up into the top 9 of the number 3 car, but that gap, I know you mentioned it, but since he's gone through shot, there's Aidan Young. And then it's all the way back to Jaden Conright, who's still having to defend into this difficult left-hander, the slightly banked left-hander. Ooh, as Alaoui around the outside, not going to be able to make any kind of move, but ticking it out on the gravel. Could have been very easy to just drop one of the rear wheels into the gravel and basically snatch the car up there. Stays where he is for the time being, but Jaden Conright is still in third.
That's Garon, who's gone for a big spin down there from 7th place, and all sorts of people going all sorts of different directions to avoid him. He's got back on in 14th. There's an extra point there for Blake Ziti, by the way, who's now 12th. Kevin Kiernet's still down in 21st, and that's a position of Ziti that Kiernet's has not got. So at the moment, he's going to turn the tide on this championship on the very final day, but it just looked like Garon there going for a spin rather on his own, and now he's defending from Kevin Denier, who's up there in the championship, by the way. He's 2nd place in the championship. He's way down in 15th for the moment in this race, though, as Chris Beats now moves alongside his teammate in towards the hairpin.
Yeah, I think for Kevin Denoyer, really struggling with the conditions this evening. I'm not too sure what else the reason could be for dropping right down the order. Garon's rear end just drops away from him, and drivers have to go left and right just to avoid. Almost smartly tries to straighten the car out with the drivers immediately coming past him to make sure that he doesn't go sideways across the track. Would have been far more difficult to avoid had that been the case. So good driving in the end from Marc-Andre Garon after making that mistake. Almost prevent anybody else, including himself, picking up damage in the moment, and he's able to carry on in P14. I wouldn't be surprised if he gains another couple of positions with the pace that he showed towards the start of the race. For Blake Ziti, though, it really is now a great position to be in. He is going to start looking back. Kevin Kienitz dropping to P26 means that he has got a huge advantage right now, and it really is, I think, at this stage, his to lose.
Well, that's a big turnaround. What we've seen through most of this season, to be honest. Kevin Kiernitz was initially behind, but he had a consistent run of 4 weeks of gaining points, by the way, on Blake ZT, did Kevin Kiernitz, and that's given him the championship lead that he's just started to give up, unfortunately, in these last few weeks. 2 out of the last 3 he's lost points, and is he going to lose it all right at the very end? I wonder. Well, certainly not over just yet. There's still 2/3 of this race remaining, and the battles have just calmed down a little bit for 3rd place. It's not as big of a group as it was before. Chris Beats still feeling the need to defend from Luke Ludecky that time, though.
Yeah, and making sure that he stays in front once again. You know, this entire group of cars have just been, quite frankly, fist fighting whilst the others get away up towards the front of the field. That and now 11-second gap between Budzinski and Comrade really does put that, because Comrade's not being a slow driver, but just having to go side by side, being offline in some really tricky parts of the lap has meant that he's just not been able to keep up the pace compared to his teammate, who is right at the front of the field. Comrade is starting to get a little bit away, though, from Alawi and from Beats, the Ledecky in there as well, but they are starting to stretch a little bit in the train. They're not quite as congested as they once were, and we are seeing them settle down a little bit as we get towards the halfway point in this race.
It looked further behind, by the way. That Garon got one of his places back again. Ryan Putel down to 15th now. And that's Marc-Andre Garon up 1 in number 111 into 14th place. So Emmett Lindqvist to be next for him. And this is effectively a train coming right the way back from here. And Jaden Comright, who is in 3rd place. The gaps are very small all the way down there to effectively 17th. Kevin Kiernitz at the moment still 26th in the race, although he has stopped for 8 seconds so far. Putel and Garon going side by side again now, a bit further behind. So Putel was overtaken. He's under pressure again, though for that 14th place it looks like he's hung on. Maybe this is a sign of what this middle part of the race is going to do. Just a little bit quieter than what we saw through the first third, and a smaller group out front here battling for 3rd as well.
Yeah, it means that there isn't as many cars congested on the circuit like we saw before. It has settled down a little bit. There's no reason to believe that it's going to stay like this. I think particularly after we get through the pit stop cycle, there's going to be quite a few. I think chopping and changing the positions is going to be very easy to make little mistakes in the pit lane, i.e. missing your pit box. We saw it in the dry in the fixed series. Can be even easy to do in the wet here in the sprint series. Definitely a concern, no doubt about that, for a lot of these drivers to make sure they nail every little part of the pit stop cycle. You know, it's a lesser practice part of a race for these drivers, but just as critical as any kind of move that could be made, because you can lose 2-3 seconds in the pit stop. We saw it in the fixed sprint, in the fixed series. You lose 2-3 seconds, you lose the position, you can't get back through with the conditions that you find yourselves in. So, yeah, let's see how the drivers can cope with this. But the pressure's going to be certainly on for them to make no mistakes in the pit lane.
Oh, we saw, yeah, in that previous race just how important it is, and week after week we see it here in this series. Lots of gravel gets kicked. I'm not quite sure where this gravel's coming from, by the way. It's not like there's a line like there is in some circuits that does bring you very close to a gravel trap. It just seems to be a lot of pebbles bouncing around down there for some reason. Aiden Young, meanwhile, sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Now 3 seconds behind Budzinski and a bit closer than what he was before. Just wonder whether Young is finally going to get this race win right on the last day. It would be nice for him. He's been on the podium in the last 3 weeks in a row. You know, some would argue deserves the race win, but Budzinski equally wants to cap off the season with a win. So it's going to be 2 big names at the front of this field battling in a big way in the next 22 minutes for this final win of the season.
Yeah, it really is going to be a scrap. Almost a shame that Aiden Young hasn't necessarily been able to chase down Elliot Budzinski in the same way that he's been able to get away from Jaden Comright and Uthman Alawi, but there is still going to be that possibility of a battle right towards the end of the race. I think really as well, in terms of the race win, Aiden Young's going to really want this one. Budzinski's going to be happy I think, just to be sat in P2 by the end of this race, because, yeah, he may lose out on the win, but really his target is the championship. For Aiden Young, the win would mean that he gets ever closer, as Ethan Bass goes for a spin in the 52. He gets ever closer to P2 in the championship, and he gets that win that he may feel like has eluded him in the last couple of weeks in the GT4 class, because he's been so close to that top 10 list of all-time race winners. Definitely a fantastic target to have, and with so few races left for the foreseeable future in the PRL, it would be a fantastic position to put yourself into, and into the history books, realistically.
Yeah, it would be tied 10th with Michael Diaz, but I'm sure he could cope with that. 25 wins if he were to be able to win today. He's currently on 24. This is Chris Beats into the final few corners. Comright has just alleviated some pressure on himself. I just wonder whether that's Uthman Alawi going a bit slower, or whether Comright going a bit quicker. New fastest lap again, 50.2 there from Aiden Young, which is very quick indeed. Last time round, Comright did a 51.3. That was his personal best. So actually, it is Comright getting quicker. Alawi is continuing at the same speed he's been doing all race, but unfortunately now that speed's not good enough. Beats and Ludecki are trying to go with Comright, and at the moment they've got Alawi in the way. He was only doing what he's done previously, and now it's not enough. Meanwhile, big news in the AM Championship. Blake Ziti has just lost a couple of places, and there's all sorts going on back there. He was in 12th place, and now Blake Ziti is dropping down the field. He is getting dangerously close to losing his championship leading position on the road. Joshua Spears gets down the inside. He goes through. He's now 16th, is ZT. Kiernitz is 23rd. At the moment, he is still the championship leader, but by only one singular point.
Yeah, I guess the good thing for ZT is right now the driver directly behind him is his teammate, Matt Stadniak. He could almost provide a little bit of a buffer here. You'd expect Stadniak to stay, but he's going to go for the move. That puts paid to that. I'm shocked that he's going to go for the move here. You'd have thought as teammates that Stadniak would help out Blake in his quest for a championship here, but he's going to take P16 and put it into a possible tying position right now. Oh no, he's going to give the place back. Who knows what's going on with these two?
Doesn't seem like the smartest bit of teamwork I've ever seen going on for these two at the moment, but anyway, they are exchanging places a bit further down the field. But with some pit stops already having happened here, I think ZT's in a bit more trouble at the moment after that mistake than what it seems at the moment. This is Terrio versus Lopez Gonzalez, and these two are leaning on each other properly through the final couple of corners. Terrio tries to, it almost looked like he was trying to get into the back of the Acura through the final corner there. He didn't quite manage it, and it was just side-to-side contact through the chicane at turn 13 and 14. Again, Terrio gets close. Again, he can't go through on Gonzalez, who is up to 7th now.
Yeah, good little run of form in the last few minutes from Nicolas Lopez Gonzalez. Terrio, he's been off the track a couple of times, but still inside the top 8, looking to get himself back through, but nothing happening into turn number 2. Ryan Puktil is going to get through on Steve Baker, though, as Baker looks like he's dropped a little bit of time, and actually a couple of seconds for the drivers around him. This is Terrio. What's happened to him in towards turn 12? The slightest bit of contact with the 72. Yeah, there you can see front right to rear left, and they're still door banging all the way through the final couple of corners. Oh, this is a little bit more than rubbing is racing, my word. They're just continually hitting each other.
Yeah, did go on a bit there, but Terrio loses the place eventually, and Gonzalez up to 7th in the race at the moment. Meanwhile, Denier and Spears going into battle again. Blake ZT just in behind them. These guys are really quietening down in the last few moments, so giving a bit of time to the midfield. Denier back through then on Spears in the 5 car. He's quite a long way down, really, Denier, for someone who's 2nd place in the Pro Drivers' Championship. Would see Chris Beats up ahead of him now if the race were to end right now. Aiden Young as well, as he continues to battle away with Joshua Spears, and now it's a group for 14th place because Blake ZT is just in behind them. Then it's Matt Stadniak, who was a bit weird with the with his teammate, to be honest, but they've got a common goal now to get ahead of the couple of drivers up in front there for 14th place. Oh, Alawi through turn 1, going for a big spin. He's been hit by Ludecki. He's been hit by Nick Ludecki. who's lost all of his front end. Oh, these two are going to be big, will have big damage after that. The 444 goes for a spin through turn 1. Uthman Alawi hit pretty hard by Nick Ledecky. And, well, that'll be that for these two as far as a run for a podium place goes.
Yeah, it almost looks like Alawi is all right there. Maybe not for Ledecky, but let's see what happened to the 444 into turn 1. That car's gone very, very early into the corner. Oh, and just the just the spin onto the circuit. Again, being sideways is a lot more difficult to avoid than being head on. And the side of that car got a pretty hefty hit, but he's all right actually comparatively. Nick Ledecky isn't losing a great deal of time either. Somehow they may have gotten away with that somewhat. I don't quite know how that's possible, but not going to complain, are they? Or maybe they haven't if Ledecky's lost the position.
I'm surprised that he hasn't got more damage, to be honest, with Malawi. And Ledecky is the one who's, really seems to be damaged. Alawi seems to have just gotten away with it, which is extraordinary, really. Ledecky loses another place to Diaz as Gonzalez and Terrio fight for 5th outside. Oh, there's contact there too. Terrio there goes into the gravel after a very slight bit of contact with Gonzalez. It was always coming, to be honest, between these two. Terrio now back onto the circuit right in front of Nicholas Mazza in the number 3 car. And, he's going to have a different battle in his hands this time, but a small bit of contact this time with consequences seeing Terrio in the gravel at turn 12.
And this is the view from Nick Ledecky of the incident. Well, he didn't know which way to go, and by the time he could try and make a decision, it was too late. Look at that steering. I think you could see it. He was turning right, pretty much going straight, heavy right as well. And that's not at all what he needs. He's in the pit lane, and I'd suggest he's going to be in there for a slightly extended period of time. But that's not what he needed whatsoever. This is what happened between Terrio and Gonzalez. Oh yeah, it's a really slight bit of contact. I'll be honest, I didn't really pick up on it on the first time we saw it live, but yeah, it is just as Terrio gets towards the front of the car, braking slightly later, where he's able to make that move. Or sorry, where the contact is initiated, I should say.
Yeah. So, just less than 15 minutes to go. Let's just have a quick check on where we all are. 1.7 seconds the gap between the two leaders. Elliot Brzezinski versus Aidan Young for first and second place. They are the only two who are realistically going to challenge for the race win, to be honest. In the AM Championship, and indeed the race, Blake Ziti is currently leading ahead of Gavin Ammerman, but they're the only two who have stopped, or have not stopped, sorry, in the AMs at the moment. Blake Ziti is only 4 places ahead of Kienitz, and suddenly not in championship winning position anymore. And his mistake from earlier on is suddenly costing him a championship. 2 points would be the margin. It is still really close. He's still got a teammate up ahead of him as well if he wants to use him. So it's not over for Ziti, but he needs some points in this last third of the race, in this final race of the season indeed. And here are a few points just up ahead. Denier there in 14th place at the head of this group that could be key to Ziti's championship charge.
Yeah, and for Ziti, he doesn't want to be in this position at all. Again, Stadnik, I don't know what the circumstances were, but Stadnik now, of course, ahead of his teammate, where Ziti could really do with that position. I wonder if push came to shove by the end of the race, whether Ziti would be able to get that place back off of his teammate, but that is still a long way. Oh, in the background, there's a car off the road. That's Emmett Lindqvist. We can see him spinning around at the exit of turn number 1. He's in the gravel, he's off the road, and it's a heavily damaged rear right.
It does look pretty damaged on the right-hand side, and he pulls over to the left-hand side of the road to retire back to the pit lane, or at least for a long repair. That is a real shame for Lindqvist, who's hit the wall out of turn number 1, and he's not the first driver to do it. It's a really difficult corner, especially in these wet weather conditions. This, meanwhile, is back for 6th place with Terrio, Mazza and Diaz. There's another fastest lap of the race, by the way, brings Aidan Young to only a second off of Elliot Brzezinski. Maybe we are going to get a battle for the win here at the very end.
What we want to see, isn't it, right at the end of the championship in the GT3s. I mean, the PRL has had such a great history of GT3 running. Of course, there will still be GT3s on Thursday night in that GTP LMP2 GT3 series, but this is going to be the final race for some time where we see the GT3s racing on their own. I suspect that's probably the last we'll see of Emmett Lindqvist racing in this race unless he can get that car back out on circuit, but he had to tow back with the amount of damage that he had. We kind of want to go out on a bit of a high, don't we? In a battle between Budzinski and Aiden Young for the final race win of the season be a perfect way to do so. He's now within a second and closing the somewhat ever so slightly dry conditions. They're favouring the 427 at the moment.
It's going the right way, but how much longer for? This is the first race of the season, by the way, in which it's been raining the whole race. So I just wonder whether pit stops are even going to be required for some of these people. I mean, it seems like a silly thing to say, but at the moment, they are running a very long way into this race. We haven't seen this very much this season. Nearly half an hour in, and still most of the drivers are out on the circuit, having not stopped yet. 5 seconds or so is sort of the shortest pit stop we've seen so far for Jermaine Warren, that was actually. So I just wonder whether we will see the same for these guys, or whether there will be enough fuel to get them all the way to the very end, at least for someone. We'll see if indeed they try it. Just over 10 minutes to go. Brzezinski versus Young is just under a second at the moment. It's actually one of the few battles under a second. This is another one of them between Diaz and Mazza, although Roberto Diaz has only just got through, and so you'd expect him to drive away at the opposite direction now. Kevin Denier still just in front of Fonseca and Blake Ziti, but still it's hard really to look at the championship battle at the moment, really, without remembering we're halfway through a pit stop cycle, and there's not going to be much time after Ziti makes his stop to figure out where everybody is and how many positions he needs to win the title.
Yeah, and with such little time left in this race now, comparatively to what we started with, I think a lot of the situations are pretty much set in stone. 10 minutes we have on the clock. There's only so much that drivers can do now. In a perfect world, they may be able to get ever so much further up the grid, but realistically, it's never going to happen. Ziti can see the likes of Denoyer, Fonseca, and Stadniuk. That's his target, but if you are Gonzalez and you're 6 seconds behind Chris Beats, it's going to feel like a long way to get any higher than that. Jaden Conroy, although setting the fastest lap, still 11 seconds off the back of Aiden Young, almost knows that he's not going to be really in contention towards the end of this race for anything higher than a P3. So I think drivers starting to settle into their closing race stages. We're still waiting to see if and when pit stops arrive. It's going to be the splashiest of splash and dashes from what we've seen this season. If they do have to make their way, or if and when they do have to make their way down pit road, with only 9 minutes left of the race. It's incredible they've gone this long.
Yeah, but I guess it makes sense in the weather. Oh, wide, very wide for Budzinski. A rare mistake from the championship leader, and suddenly this is right on now. Aiden Young looking for his 25th win in the PRL, and suddenly the chances have just gone up for him. Brzezinski wide through turn 11, but that is the line you really want to use as you're dealing with the wet weather conditions. Young with a peak to the inside, but he's not going to go for an overtake through turn 12. It's pretty difficult. Gets right up to the back of his fellow Acura, and this race is absolutely on here between these two. Through the final couple of corners, there's still 5 laps to go. Much of the disappointment of Brzezinski, and they're both coming in here. They're at the fuel limit. They're coming up to the back end of a lot of people. They'll be putting a lap down as well, by the way. And you've got to think that might be factoring in to what they're thinking about at the moment. Brzezinski, followed by Young, in for a very important pit stop here.
In the race, both of them trying to stop on their marks as well. Who's going to be able to do that best? Looks like they've both done a more than fine job. The question is, how long are they going to spend in pit lane? The pit box time is shorter for Aiden Young. Oh, he's not going to quite get out ahead, but it's a little bit of a quicker time. They're nearly side by side on the exit of the pit lane. Aiden Young is as close as he ever has been to a race lead in the GT3s here in the PRL. Elliot Budzinski just trying to hold on now, but Aiden Young with really with the confidence to go around the outside at turn number 2.
Already out the pit lane, he's going around the outside. Can he stay there in time for the left-hander? It looks like he just about can. Oh, no, not quite. Not right the way down the straight, as the conditions, by the way, getting a little bit better at the moment. The times are going to get a bit faster as Conroy leads the race. This is the battle for the lead, come what may later on. 7 minutes to go. He's looking back for the inside again there. He was looking to switch back to the very inside, but the hairpin there was Aiden Young. He's not able to do it. He'll have to now switch underneath Budzinski. He's not been able to do it, and he'll have to wait for another time. He's got 7 minutes to figure this one out.
Yeah, and he's still got a little bit more time to make this move stick, but you feel like that may have been his best opportunity in this race. Still a little ways to go with the track ever drying. There's going to be more and more grip to find. It's a case of who can find a little bit more grip. Difficult for Elliot Brzezinski is he has to meet the conditions first. Aidan Young can almost watch what Brzezinski is doing and act accordingly, but Elliot Brzezinski is being thrown into the fire somewhat and having to deal with the conditions firsthand. But this is going to be a titanic battle towards the end of this race. 6.5 minutes left to decide it. Wide from Brzezinski ever so slightly into turn 12, but just about gathers it up before they make their way in towards the final couple of corners.
Now, 4 laps still to go in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. 4 laps in the entire season, and it's going to come down to a titanic battle between Elliot Brzezinski and Aidan Young, because Jaden Conwright comes in and, as we expected, is going to come out behind these guys. We'll look at the other important battles a little bit later as far as where these guys are after pit stops, but Aidan Young's giving this another go. He has another look towards turn 2. Can't do it. They're both very tight to the right-hand side there, just trying to straighten out the left-hander and the run onto the parabolica here and towards the hairpin. He's been very close for a while here as Aidan Young, and he's got another chance down here this time round. Brzezinski kept it through the middle of the road last time to sort of prevent Young from ducking back to the inside, and he's been successful in doing this again. He's just starting to fend off a few attacks in a row now, and Young can't afford to let him get comfortable doing that.
Yeah, this is getting really close now, and coming down to the wire with only 5 minutes to go here at the Hockenheimring. Aidan Young's never going to be able to go for it down in towards that Mercedes-Benz chicane, but he is just applying the pressure, getting in the mirrors of Elliot Brzezinski at the moment, and that's really all he needs to be doing right now to make sure he is staying more than relevant in this race. Terrio in the background, you can just see right at the back of the shot, trying to get through on Nicolas Lopez Gonzalez, but as they run their way through for P5, they're going to be battling for themselves, but we really have to focus on this race win battle because it's going to come down right to the wire. Quick word on Blake Ziti as well. He's in 15th. The problem for him right now is Kevin Kienitz is 18th and is close enough to keep hold of the championship lead.
Down the bottom of your screen, not the battle for first place, but instead the battle for which is that battle actually? It said not 8th place, is it? Oh no, 5th for Gonzalez versus Terrio. Yeah. So sorry, I was looking at Diaz there, but he wasn't near anybody. It is Nicolas Lopez Gonzalez ahead of Simon Terrio for 5th. 4 minutes to go, 3 laps to go still in this race, and Young again not close enough in towards turn 2. Does he have a chance here at the hairpin, the most popular place to try and make a move? Well, he's a 10th further back than what he was last time round, and we'll remember how that turned out. Wasn't able to quite do it. And I suspect it might be similar this time round as well, unless he's looking for a real slingshot effect down towards the end of the straight here. Nope. Brzezinski pulls it over to the racing line, and he will keep the lead again. I do get the feeling that has happened now, unfortunately, for Young. Brzezinski has got a bit comfortable with Young being behind him, and he knows exactly where he needs to put his car to defend.
Yeah, Aidan's going to have to find a slightly different line somewhere on the circuit to make this move stick. The difficulty is opportunities are running thin and far between now. Nearly hits the rear end as they work their way down in towards turn number 8. As they'll work their way out towards the old layout of the circuit once again and back into the infield. The stadium section, they're going to have, when they cross the line, another two to go at the end of this lap. Aidan Young is going to have to find a line somewhere. He's going to back himself, I'm sure, to find a possible move. But the difficulty for him right now is that Brzezinski is picking all of the right lines and getting all of the right exits nailed, meaning that Aidan Young can't do anything apart from sitting behind and almost wait.
Here's Uthman Alawi, by the way, trying to regain some of the places he lost earlier on. Kevin Denier suddenly is into the top 10, and he's going to stay ahead of Alawi in the championship, which was not looking likely at one stage, even if he will lose his top 3. In the background, though, that looks like William Fenton going for a spin, I think. And indeed it is. He is a lap down, unfortunately, and will drop even further down. In the AM Championship, by the way, ZT is only 3 positions ahead of Kienitz, and so he needs to gain another 4 places. He needs to finish 11th in this current situation to win the AM Championship, because he can't win on countback with the tied score. Kienitz would win then, so it's got to be Blake ZT winning from 11th place. He needs to gain 12 seconds and make up 4 places in 2 laps, which does seem unlikely.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily expect that to be able to unfold for him. And Blake ZT is, being ahead of Stadnik means he hasn't even got that element to pull out of his pocket in the final couple of minutes. William Fenson going for a bit of a lazy spin. He's up early in the morning, I'm sure, down under. But, it's not going to be the happiest start to his day to spinning around, even though those wheel rims are bright orange, aren't they? Very easy to spot him from a distance. Sadly, we're seeing those wheel rims perpendicular to the circuit, which is not really where he wants to be. One more lap to go after the end, after they complete this one, though. And it's going to come down to the wire, but you struggle to see where Young's going to make a move right now.
Yeah, you get that feeling. With hindsight, striking immediately maybe would have been the better option here. Oh dear, as Jermaine Warren has had a moment on the brakes there through turn 12 and goes off into the gravel. Meanwhile, in live pictures, the 2 leaders come through to see the white flag, the final ever lap in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, with Elliot Brzezinski and Aidan Young going into battle one last time. Just watch how Young is going to absolutely rag this car around to try and win from here. It's going to be difficult, but he's going to give it absolutely everything. He wants to win for the 25th time in the history of the PRL, and what a historic one it would be. He's going down the inside of turn 2 here. A surprise move. There's contact. Brzezinski just has to save a slide here, and he's really off course now. Young's got a better run out of turns at 3 and now as well, and so surely there's going to be a chance down in towards the hairpin. This is the closest he's been for laps. He went for the move at turn 2. It's opened up the opportunities for him here. Jermaine Warren staying out the way of them as he moves to the outside. It kind of closed Young's options there, really. He's on the outside line. Brzezinski skates it into the corner. He's not going to get as good of an exit here, and it looks like Young's going to have it on the way down in towards turn 8. This is the replay of the move. It was a late one down the inside. There was a slight bit of contact, but I don't think he really benefited from it. Here he is on the outside again in live pictures, in towards turn 8. Again, not able to do it. Again, he's going for the cutback, but this time Brzezinski has got clear, and maybe now he's going to be able to hang on. Young through the right-hander of turn 10, trying to do anything to make a move here, but into the final sector it's going to be oh so difficult. Up over the curb, a little bit there for Brzezinski, a bit more than he would have wanted. Young's going to have a look down the inside. There's no space there. It's really narrow through this final sector, and so he's got to do something inventive with these final couple of corners. He throws it over 13 and 14, throwing everything at this race. In towards the final turns, Brzezinski holding the inside line as much as possible. He's going to hang on just about. What a fantastic finale here in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. It's Elliot Brzezinski who wins the race and crowns his championship season as well, with a great defence of that lead ahead of Aidan Young.
Yeah, incredible defence from Brzezinski to make sure he could get to the end of this race, just up in front of flashing the lights, maybe in sanitation of the battle that they've just had. Great to see them find it out. The problem, though, looking further back, is Blake ZT's winning the race in the AM class. However, he's not far enough ahead of Kevin Kienitz to take the title, as it stands with Kienitz in 18th and Blake in 15th. It will be Kevin Kienitz just holding on to take that AM title away from him.
It certainly will. It's not over just yet. Kienitz has still got to cross the line, but Blake ZT is only going to be 15th by the looks of things here, as Denier, meanwhile, is losing places to the line. Not sure what's happened to him. And Stadnik as well is dropping back. I wonder whether he's giving over a place to ZT. He is indeed. So, well, what is going on here? There's all sorts of moving around happening. I'm not sure whether that's our timing screen or whether that is happening in real life, but there's all sorts happening. ZT, that is ZT, going over the line at about 3 miles an hour. Well, I've got no idea what any of that's all about, to be honest with you. And I can't tell you whether the moving around happened in real life or whether it just happened on our timing screen, but ZT does get over the line in 17th. only just ahead of Kevin Kiernitz in the end, who will be our AM champion. There he is. He crosses the line second on the day in the AM class, actually, but it's enough. He hangs on to win the AM championship by just 5 points in the end.
Yeah, not a big winning margin, but a winning margin all the same. And he's going to be delighted to take home the title, I'm sure. I do think that there's a big possibility here that those guys ran out of fuel right at the end of the race. I mean, they crawled towards the line. It didn't really look like there was any room for contact between a couple of them. Kevin Denier just dropped a lot of time behind the likes of Stadniak, so bit of a weird one, but in the end, it doesn't really matter for Kevin Kiernitz. He's going to win the title anyway, and he'll be delighted to do so. Also, a note on Aidan Young is that with the position that he finished in, with Chris Beats in 4th, I believe he's just about going to be able to pick up P2 in the championship. Or maybe it's just going to be P3.
I think it will just be P3 I think, yes, he's going to stay in 3rd place. Anyway, Elliot Brzezinski takes the win ahead of Aidan Young in that great finish we saw between the top two. Jaden Comright joined them on the podium as Wilderness Racing had a very good day in the end. Chris Beats and Nicolas Lopez Gonzalez round out the top 5. We see Monterio 6th. Oboda Diaz, Nicholas Mazin, and Ryan Putel of Manila, we round out the top 10. Only 3 manufacturers in the top 10, and the Porsches continue with Dave Mendonca and Joshua Spears. The Acuras continue with Michelangelo Fonseca. Matt Stadwick got 14th in the end, ahead of Kevin Tenier and Kevin Simpson, and Blake Ziti, who actually won in the AM class here tonight. But Kevin Kiernitz is the champion after finishing in 2nd. Marc-Andre Garon and Steve Baker round out the top 20. Last driver on the lead lap was Devon Brock with Chris Stewart 1 lap down alongside Jermaine Warren and Gavin Ammerman. William Fenton was 3 down ahead of Ethan Bass. Emmett Lindqvist and Nick Ludecky and Juan Lemus were all multiple laps down as well. Let's have a chat to Elliot Brzezinski, who won here tonight in the final round of the season in a fantastic finish. Let's chat about that first of all, Elliot. Congratulations on the win, but what a fight you had with Aidan in those final few minutes. Just tell us about those last few moments.
Yeah, I mean, I thought kind of after the first 20 minutes of the race that it was kind of not sealed up, obviously, because it's super difficult to sit the conditions, but I thought it was going to be a little bit easier than it was, to say the least. But man, the last half of the race, Aidan just had so much speed, so I gave it my best and somehow managed to hold him off. But yeah, it was great racing with him, especially being able to race so close, but not have any stupid issues. Yeah, it was really, really fun, but glad to come away with a win after that one. I think a couple laps more, then maybe I might not have had it, but seriously, great racing to Aidan.
What about the season as a whole? I felt that the DNF for yourself at Road Atlanta could actually be a real turning point away from your favour, actually 3 weeks ago, but you've managed to turn the tide back round all over again and finish with 3 strong rounds inside the top 5. How do you feel at the end of this season, having taken the title?
Yeah, I mean, it feels great to get Phil Dennis Racing what it deserves with a championship and to top it off with a win for the last round. But you know, I wasn't too optimistic going into Road Atlanta. For some reason, I always seem to struggle there. So I kind of knew that one might be a rough round for me. Maybe not as much as it was, but yeah, it was just that extra bit of motivation to finish the season strong. So yeah, really, really happy with the last couple of rounds. 2 pole positions, 1 win, 1 podium. So really happy with it, and I think we've made some strides in this Acura at Phil Dennis Racing.
Well, congratulations on winning the Drivers' Championship and indeed the race tonight, Elliot. Coming to chat to us as well.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice night.
Thanks very much, Elliot Brzezinski there. First place here tonight at the Hockenheimring. Let's have a chat now to Aidan Young, who was so close to getting that race win, but in the end, 2nd place here tonight. Congratulations, Aidan, on a 4th podium in a row, but are you a bit disappointed not to have turned one of those 4 podiums into a win?
A part of me, yeah, but I mean, I can't be disappointed with the race like that, you know. I mean, me and Elliot just, after the pit stops, it was on, and we tried to put on the best show we could for you guys, so hopefully you enjoyed it.
Absolutely, it was a great finish, especially. Just tell us a little bit about what it was like from your perspective and what your thinking was about how was best to try and overtake Elliott at the end.
Well, I know in the rain, most of the time, the best line is going to be the outside line, but depending on the track, sometimes it could be the inside line. It can be quite awkward how it works. So at a couple of the corners, it was inside line, and then at the couple of the others, it was the outside. So when it came to those certain corners, I think it was the hairpin, the next hairpin after that, and then the first and second corner. Those were the corners where the line kind of varied. So when I saw him go one way, I was like, okay, well, I know I can make this work if I get it right. Unfortunately, I never really managed to get it just right. Had I gotten it right, maybe I could have eked out Elliott to the win. But you know, I'm still happy with the P2. That was an amazing race, and definitely one I'll be going back to watch after tonight.
Absolutely. Well, it was one to remember. Well, congratulations on finishing in second place here at the Hockenheimring, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
I would just like to quickly give a thanks to my team, WSR Esports, for supporting me through the season and giving me the tools I need to do good. And I think the page showed today that WSR Esports butt kicker Acura was pretty rapid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Congratulations on second, and thanks for chatting to us as well, Aidan Young, there here after the final round of the season in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series here tonight at the Hockenheimring. Jaden Colwright finished in third place here today for Fieldinez Racing, and you can also chat to us now. Congratulations, Jaden, on rounding off the season with a podium. Didn't see a lot of you through the second part of the race, but the early laps were pretty lively. Tell us a little bit about how you navigated those.
Yeah, honestly, it's great to be back up here. I mean, I haven't actually done anything so far this season since we switched to the Acura when we were in the BMW last year. But yeah, I was just really trying to manage. Once you're from P3 back, it was completely blind. So I was trying to pick my brake and kind of figure out where to place the car, and most importantly, not run into my teammate since he was leading the championship. But lucked out going 3 wide in the hairpin and ended up second. So, I mean, perfect start, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as you say, not been able to get to as many rounds this season, unfortunately. But how has the season been generally at being part of the Fieldinez Racing team, which have once again been so prominent across the front of the field?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, it was our first season in PRL last season, so just having a nice flow for it, understanding how it runs, and just kind of having more time to kind of focus on it's been great. So, like, thank you, Phil. Congrats to Elliott as well for winning the championship. It's been good.
Absolutely, and of course the second place in the teams as well at the end of it all. Congratulations on your podium tonight, Jaden, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jaden Conwright there in third place here tonight. Fourth place was Chris Beats, and he's part of the Sim City Racing team. Winning team, as it were. Chris, congratulations on that, and fourth place here tonight. What were you expecting from tonight for SimCity Racing, nursing a team's championship lead by a few points at a very wet Hockenheimring?
Yeah, just trying to hold on with the weather. The weather was a little bit wild there, so I saw Uthman had a little incident, but he still managed to get in some points. So that was the overall goal, was to get that team championship. I think the driver's side, Uthman and I were definitely out of the competition. Elliott's just so quick. So the team championship was definitely the points played today, and it worked out. Pretty stoked. I think this is our third championship in the last year.
Absolutely, it's a great victory for you guys as a whole. I mean, what was this race like in particular in the wet weather? As you were talking about earlier on, you were involved in the big battle for third place, really, which was the highlight of the first half of the race. We were watching a lot of it. There was a lot of you involved in there, and it was very lively. How did you find it?
Tell you the truth, you guys had a better view than us because you can't see anything. It was literally like survival of who could get the visibility, and I think even Jaden, when he made the pass for third, it might have been more of an accident that Uthman and I kind of saw it coming and let him go. We were more worried about the accident that might come from it. So I think everyone played really nice, at least between the four of us or so, until Uthman's spin. But it was all about trying to see where we were going. The top two, they took off was because they had the visibility, but it all smoothed out about halfway through the race.
I mean, as you may see if you watch the stream, it may not be as... we might not have seen very much more than you, to be honest. It was quite difficult at times, especially early on. But no, I can totally imagine, to be honest, in the battles. Congratulations on finishing fourth tonight, though, Chris, and the team's championship as well. And yeah, thanks for coming to chat to us after the race.
Awesome. Thanks for covering the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Chris Beats there, fourth place here tonight at the Hockenheimring. Just ahead, quite a lot way ahead, actually. Blake Ziti, who wins in the AM race here tonight. But congratulations, Blake, on another class win. It wasn't quite to be in the championship for yourself, but the race win at least. How are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, the race wasn't as great as I wanted it to end. I was in a position to overcome on the points, and I just threw it away there on T1 twice in a row, so doesn't feel too good, but really just wanted to come in here and thank you guys for the great season and all the hard work you guys do, really.
No, thanks very much for being a part of it out on the circuit. I mean, well, last of all, actually, what was going on up towards the line? We saw you creeping up towards the line for some reason. Did you run out of fuel or something?
That is absolutely correct. Yeah, figured I'd take a little less, and it just puttered over the line there and gave up a few spots. But obviously, I wasn't in a position where I would have been able to win, even if I had the 2 spots. So, not to win, to get the championship. So, little mistake there on the fuel. So, learned a lot though. It's good to know.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, surprises me because there were people who didn't stop at all somehow. So I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, I don't know if my timing screen is trying to trick me into getting to me believe that someone made no stops. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. I mean, I was really struggling just to circulate there, and I seemed like I burned more fuel than everyone else. But who knows, man? I don't know.
Well, your pit stop was quite short compared to everyone else. It wasn't the shortest, but it was quite short, so I can certainly understand why. But as you say, it didn't affect things too much in the end. Congratulations on winning the class tonight, though, at least, and thanks very much for coming to chat to us throughout the season.
Great, thanks, guys, and I just want to thank my team for everything this season. All right, guys, till next time. Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. Blake Ziti there, the winner in the AM Championship race here tonight, but not the championship indeed. Not going to be able to chat to Kevin Kinnett, unfortunately. He will be the champion, though, despite finishing 18th here tonight at the Hockenheimring. Well, the weather certainly threw up a few surprises, Darren, and a lot of good racing as well. And one of the best finishes we've seen this season, probably the best finish we've seen this season, to be honest, saved right till the very end. I'm not forgetting Daytona, but it's certainly up there. A great battle over the last lap between Aidan Young and Elliot Brudzinski, culminating in a close finish to round off the PRL GT3 Sprint Series.
Yeah, really good way to end out the season, and fantastic to showcase what these drivers can do. You know, the wet conditions proved to be tricky in the early stages. It dried up a little bit towards the end, and it became a little bit easier for moves to be made, but there was no shortage of action all the way through, and it's really well. We have loved the PRL for so long now, and yeah, it's been fantastic to watch another great series. We've still got a couple more champions to crown them this week, don't we?
We certainly do. Tomorrow night, it's Truck Series racing. The night afterwards, IMSA Series racing. And we'll be back on Sunday night for the final time as well in the PRL IndyCar Series from Pocono. So 3 more series to crown multiple more champions. I hope you'll join us for that. We'll be live from 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, Thursday and Sunday for those here on RaceSpotTV. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Darrell Thacker and Ramiro Augustin Cisneros has been behind the cameras. A big thanks to everyone who's watched the PRL GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series over the course of the season. I very much hope that you have enjoyed it. Hopefully we'll see you at some point again in the future. But for now, make sure you tune in tomorrow night for some Truck Series racing. From all of us here at the Hockenheimring, though, it's goodbye for now.